Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення великої страни. Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар. Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes. The Leaf Green Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Ваши жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I am the Enforcer, and we are killing it. And I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 543 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again on a Sunday fundraiser night. And we have hit $2,000 raised already. Jugga, let's go.
Shoigu! What are the donations planned there? Right here. The right freaking here. It's like the fundraiser is literally killing it tonight. We are already over $2,000, just 13 minutes in, and the Lee Spring Army is going insane. It is going mental, and for good reason tonight, because it is the Sunday fundraiser, the day that every single other day is building up towards every single week, and the donations are rolling in for Doctors Without Borders, an amazing nonprofit that has been helping out in Ukraine and has been helping out around the entire world. But of course, our fundraisers are run to support Doctors Without Borders in the continued efforts that they've been making inside of Ukraine. They are an amazing nonprofit that has been helping out ever since the very first day of the war, conducting medical train evacuations of incredibly wounded soldiers to bring them into countries like Poland for further and more advanced medical treatment. They've also been helping out on the ground. They've been providing medical supplies. They are one of the best of the best of nonprofits that have been operating in Ukraine, and they are truly one of the largest as well. And I gotta say, I gotta thank everyone so far for killing this fundraiser tonight. I mean, if this thing was the Russian army, y'all have already blown it away. And let me go get it up again so that way I can get an exact number here. And hopefully I don't, there we go. It right now is at $2.1 thousand, and it is climbing at a very fast rate.
2.2 thanks to Nosred.
And man, I gotta tell you, y'all are killing it. So keep it up and make sure to support Doctors Without Borders tonight, because every single bit of support is helping to save the lives of people in Ukraine. And these people need as much help as they needed at the very beginning of the war. Attacks like the ones on Chernihiv yesterday are just further proof of the kinds of Russian terrorism that are committed and the kind of injuries that are sustained by the citizenry because of that. And Doctors Without Borders is helping to mitigate the injuries being sustained by the Russians and making sure to save the lives of some of those people who otherwise would be in the jaws of death. And moving on from our little plug for the fundraiser tonight, it is still going mental. We are now going to be moving on into a bit of Russian news first. This is a little bit of a continuation on yesterday's news, because a lot of y'all heard about what happened at Soltoy the other day. We'll be moving up there once again into the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast to once again highlight the kind of lies that the Russians perpetrate. Now, last night, some people were very quick to tell me, "Oh, the Enforcer, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. There were no Russian bombers destroyed at Soltoy. There was only one damaged, and it was very light. They, in fact, flew it up to the Kola Peninsula just that minute. I mean, like, they're totally fine." Well, interestingly enough, the pictures came out today from the airfield, and we were able to confirm that one Tu-22 has eaten dirt Look at this thing. This thing is gone.
Damn, son, where'd they find that fire?
Man, they found that thing at Mark Zuckerberg's damn barbecue pit because that thing is smoking like a ham. Worse than a ham. That thing is getting burnt. The only thing that we can see that shows that this was a Tu-22 was a little bit of the cockpit and the front nose cone. That is it. The rest of the Tu-22 is completely engulfed in flames, and proving that the Russians have lost one of those very expensive and irreplaceable strategic bombers that they needed to be able to launch cruise missiles into Ukraine. That thing is gone. The rest of the air squadron has already been moved up into the area of the Kola Peninsula, meaning that they are largely out of range now of Ukraine, and they're now going to be used most likely to patrol the border in between Finland and Norway, which are now NATO countries. But still, the fact that one of them was completely burned to the ground, and I wish we had this picture yesterday, because yesterday's picture in the thumbnail, to be honest with y'all, actually came from around 2017. It was a Russian air show crash, but it was a Tu-22, so we used that to try and get the picture across of the aircraft being damaged in the exact model and everything. But this is a real picture from Soltoy. If we had this as the thumbnail yesterday, this would have been amazing. It would have actually been a perfect representation of what happened. But this picture only came out today. Regardless of
I'm sure the Russians would have you believe this is the new ground-based afterburner system and not a huge fire blazing on the aircraft.
Yeah, they would, you know, because I don't know what it is, but a lot of people always want to be reasonable to the point of idiocy, and a lot of people yesterday were saying, oh, Enforcer, you're talking out of your ass, man. There's no way in hell that a Tu-22 is just roasting on the airfield. It was probably just minimally damaged. And here's something to back up this picture right here. I've got to try and connect all this together. You see this thick black smoke coming out of the aircraft that's coming from the aviation fuel that's inside of the bomber? If we go to the yesterday's pictures, it's the exact same smoke plume that we saw the other day. That one right there, it's coming from that Tu-22 in this picture. This is just from the town of Soltoy. This thing was already destroyed yesterday. It's just that the pictures are coming out today of the actual destruction of the aircraft. Now, let me put this into perspective real quick, because a Tu-22 burning, that's great, but what is a Tu-22 even? And let me go make sure to pull up the right one, because there was another Tu-22 in Soviet history. It's actually the same, but this one is a modified
Good
version.
Lord.
What, that?
1,000 NOK. Do you see that donation from Dilly Dillinger?
Good, yeah, 1,000 Norwegian kroner. We are now at $3,000 nearly. We are just about $70 away from that. And the fundraiser, damn son, where's your mind? Oh my god, dude, the fundraiser is going crazy tonight. But moving back into the aircraft really quickly, and by the way, y'all blow up the fundraiser tonight. Send that thing into space, because the more y'all send that thing into space, the more lives we are saving in Ukraine through Doctors Without Borders. So kill the fundraiser. Go out there and just slaughter the thing. But moving back to the Tu-22M. This is the bomber that was destroyed. The Russians only have, and let me make sure I get the number correct, because in the modern day, there aren't as many of them operating now as there once was. Let's see. So there's only 63 of these things in service as of the last count in 2018. So one of them was just outright destroyed. An entire airframe is going to be completely unrecoverable. You're not even going to be able to cannibalize it for parts. Everything in that aircraft has burned out completely. So now we know that there are certainly less than 63 Tu-22s in service with the Russian Air Force. Not only that, the cost of a Tu-22M is, let's see here, how fast, let's see, how much does a Tu bomber cost? So this is a Tu-160, but $270 million for a Tu-160. Let's scale that back a little bit and say that this bomber costs somewhere in between 100 million to 80 million US dollars. I would assume that it's somewhere probably within that range. The Russians just lost $100 million to $80 million in the snap of a finger, more so in the explosion of a drone. And I gotta say, that is absolutely amazing to see that the Russian Air Force is being whittled away at, and very consistently, and also at a very expensive rate at this point. But that's completely opposite for Ukraine, because while Russia, of course, we can all now see, has lost a pretty valuable bomber up there in Soltoy, the Ukrainians are growing the Ukrainian Air Force twofold today. This was huge news, truly amazing news. They have confirmed that they are going to be getting 42 F-16s from the Netherlands and Denmark alone, not including any other countries yet at the moment. We have one picture, And I gotta say, this one was a pretty funny one. Of Zelensky sitting in the cockpit of an F-16. Dude, that smile right there, man. He's like, we are going to blow away so many freaking Russians.
Can you believe they let me sit in this jet? Oh my god.
Dude, he's like, this chair is pretty nice. It's even got a massage seat. But anyways,
man, I have a feeling Zelensky would be a menace in this jet. Like if they close the canopy and put a helmet on him, he'd raise hell.
Dude, you would hear that Chad music it wouldn't even be a video. It would just be, oh my god. Good God.
What happened this time?
$1,000 donation just came in from Draconis Rex1. Holy moly.
Gosh.
Good Lord. We are up at $4,200 now for the fundraiser. It's only been 22 minutes. We're already
crazy.
We're already $800 away from the fundraiser goal. It is being killed tonight, and absolutely unbelievable. You know what? I'm going to save all the good words for when we reach 5K because it's happening in just a few minutes. But anyways, Zelensky looks happy as hell in this F-16. I'm pretty sure he's happy for a very good reason, because this thing will be decimating Russian forces once it makes it there. But truly an incredible picture. And it's great to also hear that they are going to be getting 42 of these aircraft. Put that into scale. And let me go to the Ukrainian Air Force really quickly so that way we can get the exact numbers of scale. Ukrainian Air Force equipment. So let me go here, and let's go to the list of equipment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and let's scroll all the way down through every single weapon in the world that they've now been given, which is a lot of them, as you can see. Nobody get vertigo on me. I know this is fast, but we got to get down to the bottoms of the aircraft. And we're still going, and we're going through the trucks, the APCs, artillery, recovery vehicles, boats. I think we're getting close to the planes. All right, we're getting really, really close, I would assume. Here we go. All right, so as of the moment, they have 78 MiG-29s, 32 Su-27s, and that's all the fighter aircraft that they have. It's just those two variants. The Su-24 is a more so of a ground support aircraft, and also the Su-25 is a CAS aircraft entirely. It's the Soviet equivalent of the A-10 Warthog is the best way to explain it. But 42 additional aircraft are going to be added to the Ukrainian Air Force. That is a 50% increase in size in just one swift move of getting 42 F-16s.
And also, that's not all, because like Ibuprofen pointed out in the live chat, they said they'll be getting 61 planes, 42 Netherlands, and 19 from Denmark. And that is actually true. It's actually 61 now is the new number. So I'm sure that might actually grow even larger than that. And I think Ukraine only asked for about 50 to begin with, didn't they?
I think they did, dude. And everyone just went, have another. And someone else came and said, have a few more.
They went from having none to having more than they expected in the first place.
So that means right now, everyone, that the amount of F-16s that they're getting is almost just, it's just a few aircraft short of the number of MiG-29s they have right now. That is insane. That is truly unbelievable. They are growing an entire Air Force in aircraft in just a matter of the next few months. And they're not going to be your piddly MiG-29s. I mean, the MiG-29 is not that bad. As far as aircraft in the world go, it's okay, but it's not the best out there. The F-16, even the earlier variants of it compared to the MiG-29, are way better. And so you're growing the abilities of the Ukrainian Air Force by, at that point, nearly 60 to 66%. And not only that, not only are you growing the size of the Air Force, you're growing the capabilities of the Air Force massively. And so that's going to be absolutely incredible. And I was just trying to see right there. I was like, what is 1,000 Norwegian kroner? That's $100.
$94.
$94. I almost did that right in my head, but I'm still bad at math. Anyways, moving on from that, absolutely incredible to see the amount of support that Ukraine is getting from around the world, and it's great to hear that some kind of progress is being made on getting a massive number of F-16s there. Once they get those there, in that kind of numbers, I'm actually thinking that that may be a war-changing event right there, is 61 F-16s. Before this, 40 of them or 30 of them, you know, that kind of ballpark, it was going to be good. It was certainly going to help Ukraine, but I didn't really think it was going to be war-changing. Having 61 of them, you could have 20 of those things in the air at any given time, and another 40 of them on the ground being refueled, rearmed, and repaired to go up into other sorties. You could have hell, you could have multiple sorties going on at the exact same time. That is huge news and a massive benefit for the Ukrainian armed forces. So great to see that Zelensky was over there rubbing elbows in Eindhoven today in the Netherlands. And also, huge shout out.
It's going to be bigly. It's going to be bigly.
It's gonna be
Fire and
huge.
fury like nobody's ever seen.
It's gonna be
Watch
great.
that Putin.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
He's all punk.
But also a huge shout out, moving on from the voices, to all of our Dutch viewers, because Zelensky was actually in your country today. He was in Eindhoven in the Netherlands during that meeting where those F-16s were seen. And Eindhoven is actually a really cool town with a lot of history dating back to the Second World War. It was a part of Operation Market Garden in one of the towns that had to be secured by the, I believe it was the 30th Army of the British Armed Forces that was moving through the area and had to go all the way up to Arnhem where the 1st Parachute Brigade was at. And so that's a whole story on its own. I'm starting to nerd out about the history side of things. But nevertheless, interesting history behind Eindhoven. Of course, a great shout out to all of our Dutch viewers who live in the Netherlands, a really cool country. And also great to see that Zelensky was making a lot of progress in terms of foreign support today. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Netherlands and on into Ukraine itself. And we're going to be, of course, covering the Chernihiv news last. You know, we want to make sure to put that nearer to the end because it's a little bit more profound and more emotional than everything else. So we're going to be skipping over that for the moment and moving on into our location unknowns. And starting off with our first bit, we got to see never-before-seen footage of what the last moments are like inside of a Russian surface-to-air missile defense system. This is a video taken from inside of the control cabin of a Russian surface-to-air missile unit as the Ukrainian missile is flying in directly at them. They attempt to stop the missile, they fail, and we get to watch them in real time abandon the position and the chaos that goes with that. And so, this is a fairly rare video. No video has been made like this before in the war. Here is the clip. But you see some of the control cabins, and I like how it looks like a microwave. This thing looks like a giant microwave right here with all the little buttons and the old-fashioned display dials. And Randall Smith and Joseph Andronenko just threw in about 600 goals total. We hit the goal! Let's go! Long live the LSA! We just murdered the goal at 28 minutes into the stream. The goal has been obliterated, blitzed, whatever you want to call it. That thing has been blasted away. And we are well on our way into the next $1,000, the next $6,000. Absolutely incredible and truly amazing. Y'all have been doing amazing tonight, and I have to thank everyone. We'll, of course, be calling all of y'all out a little bit later in the stream, but I got to thank every single one of y'all so much for helping out this fundraiser and reaching the goal this early in the stream, because this is what this channel is about, is helping to save the lives of folks over there in Ukraine through the amazing nonprofits that have been operating there since the beginning of the war. I've got to thank every single one of y'all so much. The donations are still rolling in, and we're going to make sure to go through this video in honor of the goal just being just being hit. And so, we're getting back to the video. We can hear one of the missiles being launched right there. It will miss. And we can see another missile being launched. And we hear that it's very quiet in this control room. They're starting to have some clenched butts and very sweaty foreheads because it's getting stressful. They're missing. And, uh-oh. It sounds like they're having to fire a third missile. I think they may have missed thrice at this point, Matthew. Thrice! Can they miss more? Dude, the Russian battery commander is going, like, zoink, Scoob, you gotta hit the target. And the guys in the battery are going, raggy, grabby missiles. And we see them talking, pushing a little bit of buttons, trying to figure out how to get a missile to hit this incoming Ukrainian bomb.
And this is a Russian machine?
This is a Russian machine.
Man, this thing looks like it's straight out of the Cold War, like everything in it.
Dude, it is. Everything that the Russians use in this war is straight out of about the 1970s or the 1980s at best. maybe even older than that. But most of the air defense systems like this one are usually like 80s tech. So you're looking
I'm
at...
surprised it even works or doesn't like just blow up out of the blue.
Yeah, I have to agree. But what you're looking at is peak Soviet technology about 40 years ago. This was about as best as they were able to make it. And it doesn't really stand up in the modern day. As one can tell, they're not able to shoot down the incoming bomb. I mean, here the battery crew is really quiet, of course, very stressed out. And uh-oh, is that a door opening over there? Oh, they're gone. Oh, they booking it. And we can see the doors left wide open. We can hear what sounded like another missile possibly firing. But to no avail, none of those missiles shot down the bomb.
Oh.
And
wait, did it get hit or did it blow up on its own?
It got hit.
I was about to say, I couldn't tell.
And now you hear the thing winding down like a freaking video game, like you beat the main boss, and it goes... But anyways, that's the end of the clip. The Ukrainians were able to successfully hit that Russian AA battery, and the Russians were completely helpless the entire time to stop it. And stop it, they did not. As you can see, the battery is gone. I don't know how they retrieved the footage, because this battery probably burned down after that, but still a solid hit by the Ukrainian armed forces. Moving on from that and into our next bit of location unknowns, we got to see some very rare footage again. Not only was the first video one of its kind, this video is a one of its kind in its own way. The Stugna has come back, and we have gotten a compilation of multiple Stugna kills that have been happening on the front lines for about the past week in this little video clip here today. And so, without further ado, here's the clip with Chad music and a robotic owl holding a trident. Now you see the Stugna. Oh, and Chad music and sus. But we can see them lining up the Stugna. We can now see them firing, maybe? It looks like they're adjusting the camera, actually.
Like how he's just charging his iPhone on the thing.
Yeah, he's like, the battery's low.
Priorities.
And there goes the APC out there at the distance, blown away by a Stugna. Here comes the next one. But you can see the little missile on its way right there towards the Russian target. Russian target completely unaware as usual. And any second now, and it hit dead on the nail. And the owl has a seizure, and the video ends. Absolutely amazing. But absolutely amazing. From beginning to end, and great to see some of the Stugna units are still in operation and still incredibly lethal to Russian armor. Moving on from that and into our next bit of location unknowns, we also saw a Ukrainian T-64 BEV in a small clip. This was just a really cool one. I had to show it to y'all. I must. Alright, mute. And we can see the T-64 BEV. We can see the driver, the commander, the gunner. Oh, they're having a fun time out there, as they should. The T-64 BV is a little bit of an older Soviet model, but it still checks out. And we can see them wearing the old Soviet tanker helmets. Look, an old Soviet tanker helmet. But that's the end of the clip, and really nice to see that the T-64 BV crew took a little bit of a moment to document history, because they'll certainly be one of the shock units in their area of the front line, helping to support the infantry as they break through, if that happens in their front. Moving on from that, we also saw a Ukrainian kamikaze drone getting some pretty accurate hits on a Russian T-72BA. Or, as Duncan VR would like to say, bah. But we can see the drone coming on in, missing the cope cage and hitting right at the rear of the turret, blowing up in fantastic fashion, and then, in a moment, we will see it again. Another replay of the same drone hitting the same spot, and we can see this guy right here cooking up the meats.
What happened? Like this, he went from a tank to a guy.
Man, this guy, he's just grilling. I mean, like, you know, you gotta respect...
And chilling.
You gotta respect the grilling and the chilling. And so with that's the end of the clip. But great to see that they're able to knock out a Russian T-72. Bah! Moving on from that and into our next bit of Location Unknown news. This one happened in Russia. We know that, but we didn't put the marker down because we didn't even know where this happened in Russia. But we're gonna be showing y'all this because I thought this was funny. Y'all know when y'all were kids, y'all were always told not to go to the black van sitting on the corner of the road because they didn't have candy in that van. Well, it appears that the Russians force you into the van. The FSB ended up arresting a Ukrainian collaborator today somewhere in Russia, and we got to see how they went around that. They literally whip out the black van. So here's the clip. There's the van.
Oh, that's sketch.
And here goes the FSB. And they pile drive the guy onto the ground and immediately cuff him, and then they're going to throw him in the van.
Breaking news, makes man eat rocks.
And there they go, putting him in the van. And apparently in Russia they have some kind of a fake version of the Miranda rights that are reading him off. We all know that's for the cameras. We can now see him forcing him.
They made him wear like a signed mask. Did you see that? It had somebody's autograph on it.
Really?
Yeah, they see that signature right there. Is that a signature?
Dude, it's that Julian Kardashian.
That name brand mask.
And now we can see them forcing him into the FSB headquarters, face down. Of course, to humiliate him a little bit more. And now we can see the sign here that reads, Federal, let's see, Federal Sluzba, something, a Russian Federation, blah, 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 blah. But anyways, this is the Russian Federation's government office in this area, and that's where the FSB usually works out of. But that's kind of a little funny to see how the FSB operates, because they literally drive around in black vans and grab people up off the street. A lot of people are saying that that might be fake. I don't know. I'm honestly going to take this a little bit at face value, because I have a feeling that even if this was fake, this is largely how the FSB actually goes about arresting people. They just whip up in black vans and they take them off the street. Because if you ever heard anything about how Polish secret police operated in the Cold War, they actually would drive around in black limousines. Like, I'm not even kidding, they were limousines. And then they would just go nab people off the street and throw them in the black limos. And the thing is, and this is actually a crazy story about this kind of stuff, because back in the day they didn't have cameras or anything. The Polish government, the communist Polish government, not Solidarity, that was a whole different thing. But they told the teachers to start telling a folklore story to the kids about these vampires that drove around in black limousines and they would snatch people off of the street. It scared the kids in Poland, but it was also a cover made by the Polish secret police, so that way if these kids ever witnessed someone getting yanked off the street, they would go home and tell their parents, Mom, Dad, I just saw the vampires in the black limo whip up and actually steal someone off the street. And they'd be like, oh, kids with their imaginations. But what that kid actually saw was the Polish police snatching someone up off the street. So, kind of the same thing here.
I'll be honest, though. When I saw him pull up, I was wondering why the cameraman was already out there, like, waiting for the vans to pull up. That's kind of sketchy. And also, when the vans pulled up, the guy didn't even flinch, like, he didn't hear anything pulling up behind him.
Man, this guy, if he was in Detroit, he would not survive a day with this kind of situational awareness, not gonna lie. He's like, oh, a van pulling up alongside me? No big deal. I'll just keep walking.
This guy's acting like he's in a good neighborhood or something. Surely in Russia they get robbed and mugged and stuff.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that does look pretty staged. But nevertheless, it's a video that the Russians claim is real, and we all know if the Russians claim something, it's gotta be right, right? I mean, you know, they claim that none of the Tu-22s were destroyed the other day, and we all know the Russians never lie. CNN takes what they say at face value. Why can't everyone else? I mean, they're always truthful, always honest as a nation, right? Let me know what y'all think about that in the live chat, because I have a feeling that the answer is going to be opposite, and I would have to agree with the opposite. And so with that, we're now moving on into the Russian casualty report of the day, and it's a juicy one. And so, here's the clip. I'm sorry, not a clip, here's the picture.
Oh, very juicy.
Very juicy.
Wow. Man, like a filet mignon.
Now,
5 bobcats.
Now, I'm going to say this. I would usually look at the memes, but considering what we rolled upon in the comment section of Kyiv Independent yesterday, I'm kind of getting scared to look at Twitter comment sections at all, because I don't know what's in them. Yeah, because, you know, if you type in Romania and your search history is a certain thing on Twitter, you get certain results, apparently. we don't do anything beyond business on our Twitter, but at the same time, we can't control what's in these comment sections over here. So it could be Russian roulette every single day, and we don't want to play Russian roulette because we know if YouTube's going to enforce the rules on anyone, it's probably going to be us, because sometimes we get age restricted for no reason. So sadly, we can't go look at the memes today, but 5 Bobcat skid steers were wiped out over the past 24 hours. Along with that, an additional 460 Russian soldiers ended up becoming sunflower fertilizer, along with 11 armored personnel carriers, 15 supply trucks, 6 tanks, a whopping 33 artillery pieces, 22 drones, 3 MLRSs, and 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems, including the one we just saw in video earlier that failed to shoot down the incoming bomb and then got blown up. So all in all, a very impressive day today, and I love to see that the Ukrainians have been able to inflict very good losses onto the Russians. The infantry losses are a little down, but every other loss category is right on the mark or above the mark for their averages on a daily basis across the entirety of the war. So absolutely great, and love to see it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the casualty report and out of the location unknowns, and we're now going to be moving on into the northeastern area. The northeastern area is filled with excitement and adventure. Largely, it's an actually very quiet and stagnant part of the front lines, removing the sarcasm from the whole ordeal. But today, there was a little bit of action that was interesting to see. The Ukrainians were trying to whittle down Russian units in this area, most likely just to deplete Russian units' abilities and to just attrit them, as it's normal in the doctrine of Ukraine to do something like that. So we have some interesting clips there. But our real interesting clips today were found around Bakhmut, and specifically around Velika Novosilka. Around Velika Novosilka today, an entire Russian company was destroyed outright in what could only be described as a massacre. It doesn't even appear that the Russian units were able to fire back at the Ukrainians. They were destroyed pretty much by surprise, the entire company within a matter of minutes. We have the after picture of that, what happened because of that slaughter. But one thing's for certain, the Russian forces in Staromylnivka are on their dying breaths, because that was actually a relief column meant to help take off the pressure of the Russian forces that are defending that area right now and are heavily depleted. We'll be getting into that in a second, because one thing that I've seen tonight is that the fundraiser has killed it. It is at $5,700 as of right now. That is record-breaking over the past few months on the speed in which this fundraiser has made it here. It's now at $7,800. And so many of y'all have contributed so much to this fundraiser tonight to help save the lives of Ukrainians. And before we even get into talking about all of y'all who have fundraised massive amounts tonight, and also everyone that we can't name that supported smaller amounts, I just want to say up front that y'all are what make this channel special, and y'all are what make it possible for lives to be saved in Ukraine. It's not just, and I know what y'all are going to say, oh, you know, the fundraisers aren't that grand, Enforcer. That's not true. We are saving lives through these fundraisers, and not just me and Matthew, all of y'all who are on here tonight, hitting the like button, actually supporting the fundraiser. Y'all all have a massive part in making it possible to save lives in Ukraine. Doctors Without Borders has been over there for a very good while, and while they do things around the world, their efforts in Ukraine on a yearly basis total in the millions. I believe last year it was something around, if I remember correctly, $5 to $7 million that their efforts amounted to inside of Ukraine alone, which is larger than most other nonprofits can do inside of Ukraine that are solely based around Ukraine. Y'all are helping Doctors Without Borders to do things that no other fundraiser has ever been able to do, like taking wounded Ukrainian soldiers, loading them onto trains, and shipping them into Poland to receive first-class medical care. Y'all are helping them to spread out medical supplies to Ukrainian hospitals that need them, and surgical crews that will be able to save the lives of Ukrainians like the ones we saw getting injured in Chernihiv the other day after the Russian missile attack. Y'all are saving these people's lives. And I know that it seems a little bit detached when we're on YouTube, but y'all are changing the fate of some of these people inside of Ukraine with y'all's donations on these fundraisers. If it wasn't for that, some of these people may have never lived to see the next day. They may have never even lived at all. And y'all are a huge part of why some of these Ukrainians are able to live. While they'll never be able to know who did it, we'll all know what the LSA was able to do and how many lives we probably saved over the course of this entire war. And so, with that, let's hear all of the names of the top donors of the night, Matthew, who have helped to make this fundraiser possible and have helped it to get up to an amazing $6,000.
Wow. And we do have some pretty big top donors of the night. We have a very long list. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first one, which is from Draconis Rex 1, who put in the biggest donation of the night thus far, which is a $1,000 donation. And once again, a big thanks to Draconis Rex for that major donation to the fundraiser. We also have a 500 from Hal Rose and also Randall Smith. The top two other donations of the night, and thank you both very much for that as well. We also have a 300 from Just Chillin' and a 100 from some guy called The Enforcer. Then we have a 100 from Stars and Stripes. G-Man is watching Stars and Stripes yet again. Then we have one from Trister1, Kimberly Brokaw, Elder Media, Joseph Antronaco. Well, I had like a stroke. I can't even pronounce his name. And also we have a 100 from BC Skyman as well, and a 94 from Dilly Dillinger, as well as, guess what, a 69 from Psyops. Nice. And then we have a 50. Then we have a 50 from Heather Fitzgibbon, Dark Wraith 343, Nasred, Charles Hazlitt, Tony Fleming, Mark Gagne, Jorge, Joseph M. Sika, Randall Smith, Nettles Katz, John Gamber, Gene Kustra, Dad Good, Mike Smith, and also Avari Mandubratis. And I'm just looking here. I see a 100 from Michael Stackpole, as well as a 20 from Hoodoo, Texas. And I'm just looking through here to see if I missed any, and it looks like I might be good. And with that, thank you all once again for the donations for the fundraiser. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I've got to say that while I've given a huge thanks to all of y'all before we even read that off, I have to say y'all are absolute legends. The Lee Spring Army will go down in the history of this war as being one of those internet communities that really did care and really did make an impact over there in Ukraine by supporting all of these nonprofits and helping it to be possible for them to continue their work. Y'all are absolutely incredible. And of course, while we've named off all of the top donors that have put in more than $50, a lot of y'all have put in less than $50. More of y'all have put in less than $50 than over $50. And that's why it's impossible for us to call out every single one of y'all, because there are so many of y'all here tonight. But I want y'all to all know that regardless of whether y'all have even supported tonight or supported less than $50 or more than $50, every single one of y'all has made a massive contribution to helping to save the lives of people in Ukraine. If you hit the like button on the stream, you help it to be promoted to more people. And some of those people may actually be able to support this fundraiser. And in a way, you're bringing these people here so that way they can help out too. And all of the people who are putting in smaller amounts, all of y'all combined are putting in nearly half of what this fundraiser has raised in a single night. Everyone over 50, of course, is also contributing to the other half. Each and every one of y'all in the Lee Spring Army has done their own part in helping to save lives in Ukraine, and every single one of y'all have equal amounts of praise and deservedness for saying that y'all are a part of the Lee Spring Army, and y'all care and save the lives of people in Ukraine. And so with that, thank you to every single one of y'all who have been able to help out this fundraiser, and it is still going to space. We are at $6.4 thousand right now. Another $400 has been raised in just the past few minutes, but we also want to make sure that we are able to talk to y'all and also answer some of y'all's questions possibly, and also see what y'all are thinking about some of the top news tonight. And so, y'all, what have we been getting in them polls, y'all?
All right, and y'all have been saying a lot of stuff about y'all's poll questions, and y'all's responses have been quite crazy. And the first poll says, Zelensky says he is willing to give up Belgorod for Ukraine's NATO membership, and is it a good deal? 58% said, yes, that's a great deal. 19% said unsure. 9% said, maybe that'll work. And 13% said, no, that's not enough. Need more. And to me, I don't know. Giving up land, that's a pretty big ask. But I think maybe Ukraine can spare Belgorod, Russia, and they can give that up, and then Ukraine can get into NATO. I think that might be a good deal. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, sounds like a great deal. Matthew, Zelensky today, when they said, what in the world would you do to end the war? He said, I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. And then everyone went,
yes.
Oh? I would say it's a fairly
See, this is the art of the deal. Take their stuff, and then you get something.
You see, we're going to do a classic bait and switch. It's going to be great. But I would say...
the FCC or the FTC, don't come get me, please.
The IRS does it. I'm getting audited. But anyways, moving on from that and into answering the poll, I would say Yeah, that's a fairly good deal. I mean, who can disagree with that kind of deal? They get back what they originally had. The Ukrainians get back what they also originally had as well. It's a win-win for everyone. Everyone comes back at the end of the day with the same stuff they had at the start for the large part. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. We're on to the next one.
And our next poll says, Russia's Luna 25 moon lander crashed and was destroyed. And is this a propaganda mission gone bad? 67% said yes, it is failed propaganda. 17% said no, it was a legitimate mission. 9% said it is what it is and I don't know. And 6% said unsure. And I would say, on a serious note, obviously, this was a propaganda distraction, because which country is focused on trying to send moon landers to the moon in the midst of coups, a major war going on, and also people, suffering all over the place? It was a distraction, very clearly, and it ended up in a big ball of fire, and it crashed on the moon, and it's a huge embarrassment for Russia, and they deserve every bit of it. And now they're out of the quote-unquote space race, and now India is probably going to beat them to it, and the U.S. will as well. So Russia is losing all the way around. But Enforcer, what say you?
Yeah, the Russians suck. Special towing operation circa 2023, quote that. But I would say that was a little bit of a dumb thing to do, to even have a plan to launch a lander to the moon at this point. Being crushed onto the moon like an aluminum can being crushed under your foot didn't end well for them. And I would also argue that they weren't even in the space race with everyone else to begin with, because the United States right now is on a completely different level than India or Russia or China is, because they're all trying to send unmanned craft to the moon. Everyone's done that before. It's like, come on, get with the times. People are trying to go back to the moon, like actually get folks up there. That's what the US is doing, so they're not even on the same playing field as us. They're playing chess, we're playing checkers. As far as the space, I guess, space stuff goes, that's how it's kind of going at the moment. So
wait a minute, you said who's playing the chess and who's playing the checkers?
The Russians are playing checkers. The U.S. is playing chess. I think I said that the other way around.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'm about to say they're definitely not playing chess. That's above the pay grade.
Goofy. But anyways, I would say that it was a stupid propaganda attempt. But beyond that, I also like how the Russians are always going, the Russians are the best in the world, absolutely invincible. Russia, and then their little drone crashes onto the moon, and they go, oh, well, Bled, that didn't work.
Man, when we go to the moon eventually, I think we're sending a manned mission either in 2024 or 2025. We should put a Ukrainian flag up there as well, just to piss the Russians off.
Dude, the Russians would get so pissed off at that point, they would get a Kinzel hypersonic and try and target it at the moon and blow that flag away. They would try, but it wouldn't work. Everyone knows that wouldn't work. But I gotta say, funny to hear that it failed. That's really the best thing I could say about it, and I think it's, once again, an epitome of the Russians being a constant failure at this point. And so, with that, I hope we addressed that poll, and let's get on into some questions that have been sent in by the live chat. And remember, everyone, that tonight, there are no super chats. We don't actually make a cent tonight. We run these fundraisers because we care for Ukraine and want to save lives. On top of that, not only that, usually when people send in super chats, we have questions to answer. We don't tonight. So if you want to ask a question, all you have to do is ask it. You just have to @Enforcer Matt at the beginning of your question and then ask the question. And Matthew will gather them up, put them in the spreadsheet, and hopefully we'll be able to get to most of them tonight. So I hope everyone starts to ask some questions, because I'm sure Matthew's spreadsheet is like running on empty over there. It's probably only got like a few live chats in it.
Running on empty, question review.
And so with that, let's get on into the questions. But just wanting y'all to know that, because tonight, questions are absolutely free. There's not even a queue for super chats on the stream tonight. It's just questionnaire, free for all. And so with that, let's get on into the questions.
All right, and also real quick, a shout out to Greg Carrier and also Shirley145. They each put in a $50 donation to the fundraiser, and big thanks to you two as well. We have a question from Gomez Fox, who says, hearing unconfirmed reports of calls for a foreign legion of F-16 pilots and engineers, and what say you?
Reread the line. Whoa, what happened?
Whoa. Let's see. Whoa. It was in the live chat, and it got put up top. So let's see here. Oh, it was from Gomez Fox, who says, hearing unconfirmed reports of calls for a foreign legion of F-16 pilots and engineers, and what say you?
I would say that might be a little bit too out there. I think they need to be piloted by the Ukrainians. That's one thing for certain. So I don't think that would be a smart idea, because if we had a foreign legion of pilots flying those aircraft and they're also Western aircraft, you can kind of make the argument, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, you know, or if it looks like an F-16 and is piloted by Western F-16 pilots, that must be NATO. So that's kind of what I would get from it. So I would have to say, and also really quickly, Matthew, hang on. Let me axe this one personally, because I've seen this twice now. And there we go, nuked. So I would say, I don't think that's a good idea, because that actually may be reasonable grounds for escalation in the war. The Russians could actually claim that NATO is directly involved at that point, because they're Western aircraft with Western pilots. I think it's better to have Western aircraft with Ukrainian pilots, so that way we're just materially supporting them, but we're not really supporting them all the way for the Ukraine. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to, excuse me, Master J, who says, what type of missions would the first group of F-16s be used for?
The first group, well, that's actually a really good question, because let me go through all of the missions that a F-16 could do, and then we could start to kind of narrow down which ones will probably be the first. So, starting off with the most basic kind of mission that the F-16 can do is an air superiority mission, where they just load the thing up with air-to-air missiles, and they send that thing off, and it just shoots down anything that comes into the vicinity of its airspace. That's one thing that the F-16 could do. But that's not the only thing you can do, of course. The F-16 can also provide close air support to troops on the ground. You can use precision-guided GBUs. You can also use guided dumb bombs. That's another thing that the F-16 can also do. Hell, you can use dumb bombs in general. Or you could also do SEED missions, which is the anti-radar missions. That's where you load up the F-16 with AGM-88 HARMs, which are anti-radiation missiles. They pick up the radiation being emitted by radars, and yes, radars do emit radiation, so that missile is picking up the radiation coming from the radar as a certain wavelength of radiation and all that stuff. But anyways, it picks it up, they launch the missile, and the F-16 is actually designed where it can work with the missile. Right now, the Ukrainians have been using AGM-88 HARMs throughout the entirety of the war. But the problem is that the MiG-29 isn't designed to work with them. So they kind of just fire them blindly, and hopefully the missile picks up something and goes for it. But that is a very low success rate. The higher success rate is found when you're using something like an F-16 and it actually interfaces with the missile, where the F-16 and the missile work together to find the anti-radar installation, and it has a clear target when it's fired. That greatly increases the success rate of those kinds of missiles. So the Ukrainians could also use them for those missions as well. You could use the F-16s for practically every single kind of role you would want: anti-radar, ground support, or air superiority. And it fills all three roles in one. It's a multi-role aircraft. It truly is one. Not like the Russians. The Russians claim that the MiG-29 and the Su-27s are multi-role. They're not. By U.S. standards, at best, they are largely air superiority fighters that can carry bombs, but that doesn't make them a multi-role plane. The F-16 can carry more, well, I believe as many bombs as an A-10 Warthog can. Hell, the F-16, I believe, can carry as many bombs as two B-17 Flying Fortresses would have been able to in the Second World War, to just put that into scale. So the F-16 could do practically anything, but the first missions I believe we would see the F-16s doing is air superiority missions and anti-radiation missions, or the SEED missions. Those will be the first two, because the ground support missions kind of come afterwards. The Ukrainians would have to achieve mostly complete air superiority over the skies of Ukraine in the Zaporizhia and Donbass area before they could start just easily conducting ground support missions like the ones I'm talking about. So they would most likely have to go over and attack the radar installations for those surface-to-air missile batteries that are all over the Donbass at this point. And they would also have to continuously ensure that there are no Russian aircraft that may be in the skies that may possibly pose an issue to an F-16 that is laden down with bombs and other kinds of guided munitions. So that's probably what we'll be seeing them do first. And once they achieve air supremacy, we'll see some aircraft stick to an anti-radiation role and also an air superiority role, but most of those F-16s at that point would probably be used to drop the precise guided munitions that the F-16 is known for using onto Russian forces down on the ground. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least the running theory of how I think the F-16s will be used first. And with that, we are on to the final question. in this live chat. Well, for this moment, we'll of course be getting to them later on in the night, and then we're going to be getting into the northeastern news and working our way down to the entire Russian unit that was literally destroyed today. And so with that, on to the final question of this segment.
All right, and our final one of this segment is actually the Morse code decoders of the stream. We have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, and Paul Schultz. They said tonight's Morse code cipher is, "This lang's a bomb. The average Russian soldier, slow Ukraine."
And that's the sound of money. And y'all got that thing dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night, and I gotta say, absolutely impressive that y'all were able to get that correct on the 543rd day of the war. 543 days. And a $100 anonymous donation just came in for that too. So y'all actually just helped to possibly fundraise to save lives in Ukraine. We're now up to $6.6 thousand. But still, thank you all for deciphering that Morse code message and getting it right again. That always amazes me that y'all are able to do that. And it's an absolute wonder that people still have that skill. And so, we're now going to be moving on into the northeastern front. And over the past 24 hours, we haven't seen anything happen here. There you have it. Would you look at that? Nothing happened. But we did see the Ukrainians inflicting some Russian losses, for example, near Drovchina, where some Russian positions were hit quite well by the Ukrainian National Guard's steel border unit. And they are certainly creating a border of steel as this Russian tank is about to blow. Oops, sorry, it's Russian infantry. That's actually another clip a little bit later down the road. But in the meantime, watch these Russian soldiers get absolutely smacked, slammed, whatever you want to call it. But we can see the Ukrainians dropping some artillery on them. And we see the Russians running through the trench going, "Oh, bliat!" The voice crack on that one was perfect. "Oh, bliat!"
Well, they drop cocaine on the road or something? What's all that white stuff?
Man. Arr, give me some of that fine Peruvian blow. And we can see the artillery landing on top of it. And another shell. And with that, that's the end of that little clip right there. And absolutely amazing to see that the Ukrainians were able to scare the Russians a little bit in that area. Also, I see some people saying that Anonymous is an absolutely incredible donor. Anonymous is actually anyone. It's just an anonymous viewer. It's not actually their name. And I know that it sounds like a cool name. But there's an option when you want to donate to a fundraiser of whether you want your name publicly stated or not. For example, Bill Harper clicked the option where he wanted his name to be known. And thank you for the $100, by the way, to the fundraiser. But you can also not click that box and you just show up as anonymous. So that could be anyone, but it's not a single individual viewer that's throwing in like hundreds and hundreds of dollars throughout the night. It's actually multiple different viewers that don't want their names to actually be seen. But nevertheless, they still are helping to support this fundraiser massively. Moving on from that and into the Soltoy area, we also saw the 10th Brigade taking care of some Russians that were hiding inside of some trenches. Oh yeah, let's get some rap in here, please. And when you see the Russians hiding in the trenches, I like how they line themselves up quite nicely. And we now see some Ukrainians making sure that they'll no longer be hiding in trenches. They'll be hiding in the showers at the POW camp. Oh,
oh dear.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. And with that, that's the end of the clip, but nice to see they're able to take some prisoners up there in that area. It's most likely that this marker is around the Kuzmivka area, so we're going to move it up to there, but still, absolutely great to see. Moving on from that and down into the Kremena forest, things have been going on swimmingly down here, and it appears that the Ukrainians are continuously hitting Russian equipment here. Look, it's a Russian tank. Look, it's a cloud of smoke. Look, it's another one, and another one.
Oh dear.
Oh, dear. And it's a mortar.
Oh my.
And it's more mortars.
Oh, no.
All right, it's cops.
Oh my.
it's
They're going to get you.
Bad boys! And we're never going to do that again. But if we can see the Russians getting hit, hit a little extra.
Oh. Man, these aren't the cops. This is the military.
Man, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I'm telling you. But with that, that's the
Feels the cops, the Russians would be getting a schmacking right now.
Man, stop resisting! But anyways, moving on to the next clip, we can also see a Russian tank finally getting destroyed. These two tanks have been sitting out here since the 1st of July. The Russians have continuously been trying to recover these tanks. They were detracked, but they were never truly knocked out. So if you were able to retract the tanks, they would be operational again for the most part. And so the Ukrainians were finally able to get rid of them today. So check it out. We can see it get hit already at the beginning of the clip. And now we can see this thing's got a roaring little flame going on. And we can also see that the recovery tank back there has also been abandoned as this tank continues to roast. Look, another one. Another one just got hit. And so with that, that's the end of that clip. But it's beautiful to see that the Ukrainians were finally able to take care of those Russian tanks that were abandoned so long ago, but still were on the Ukrainians' minds. We're now moving on down into the area of Bakhmut. No frontline advances were seen, according to Deep State UA, over the... Oh, there has been. Look, they're finally updating it where they're making it to the railroad berm. We have had it on our map. This one's based off of Live UA's map, where the Ukrainians have been on the railway berm. So, according to us, they've already taken Andriivka, but still... Deep State UA is taking it cautiously, and they're showing that they're catching up finally. So, great to see that. But beyond that, we haven't actually seen any real frontline advances in the area today. So, of course, we're going to be starting in the northern flank, moving through the central area of the front, and then into the southern flank where most of the action goes down each and every day. But starting off with our first clip, we saw the Terra unit in operation. And check it out. I mean, these guys are pretty good at what they do. They're an aerial reconnaissance unit, which in fancy terms means they're a drone unit. Do you know where it is? It's in the middle. That's it. I'm taking off. That's the call sign of the hero.
Superman.
That man. And then it goes flying off. Here it is. Here it is. Get hit. Calmly. Give me the effing gun. Guys, there are at least 15 people. Are they there? No, they're not even in the building. Which one? In the building, yes. I warn you in advance, attention to the Ural. Welcome, friends. My name is Abdul, and I'm the commander of the Terra unit. Oh, apparently those subtitles were
it's one of these translations. It's going to be hilarious.
Welcome, friends. My name is Abdul, and I'm the commander of the Terra unit. Terra continues the battle in the Bakhmut direction and the composition of the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade. We are looking for a Rusny with the help of FPV drone in the kamikaze form. I want to thank everyone who helped to collect and everyone who wants to join us. We have an active collection of the same FPV drones of the kamikaze kind, linked to the collection in the description below. We also have Patreon and Telegram channels. Actually, here are the drones. Modern, over-effective weapon for destroying the enemy. So far, Russia does not know what to do with it, so donate to the TR section. Share this video, like we are. Donate to other units of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Only together we will win. Slava Ukraini. It's not so bad to burn. Yes, the technique is like that. Detonate? Here you see the dance of the hanger. Yeah? Dima, get up! Regine, get up! It's time for you to work. I went to put the Kuma. Dima. So the battery's installed, ready to turn on the command. Getting jiggy with it. And when you see our plastic explosive amalgamation,
good lord.
Yeah, we can see the plastic explosive amalgamation. We are going between the bitch. We found it. It's going in the direction of a suka. Can we take it? Yeah, yeah. Go, go, go. I'll drive. We'll catch it. Zora, you need to change the battery for the BHP. We are going to the BHP. We don't know where it is. We can't fly anywhere. It's in the middle of the field. I'm going to take off. Let's take off. Epic trap remix ensues. Drone is connected. I'll check the car. And there goes the drone. Check the side. He went to the right. Taxi, what is the connection? Our client.
Taxi.
Hey, how's it coming? Our client. Right, for you to fly right, go on. Right? Yeah. Where to find her? Yes, you need to fly in.
Taxi.
Which way? Video. Here it is. Pixels. Is there? Hit. Calmly. Record calmly. Xbox, record that! Oh, Bleod, it's there? Did you see it? Yes, I saw it. Nice one, yeah. Smoke? Yes, I see smoke. Happy Trap remix ensues. Good, they're getting it.
They're getting the smoke.
With the cumulative ammunition, which was moving. Guys, there are at least 15 people. Calmly? Calmly? Is it
Easy.
shrapnel or a kumul? A kumul. Will it have time to reload? Nah. Then it's a shrapnel.
Yes?
Yeah?
Superman.
Look, when it will be green. No, but it's something. Places the drone back in the bricks. Hit in the back. Hit it in the back.
Oh.
Sounds good. Blow its back out. They are now in the time of the back. Yes, come on, come on. Will you have time to fly? I have time. That's it. Let's fly and kill. Drone is connected. Let me go away. You can fly.
Superman.
You see, right? No? Yes, yes. I'll go check. Watching 2 infantry moving in the direction of the... Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Fighting the PvP of them friends here is a normal thing, and it will be normal. What?
I'm speaking Southern.
Go tell him to try to fly into the dugouts.
Hit them out there.
Or F them, okay?
Oh,
They're not here.
right.
Try to go into these dugouts. Where will you tell me where I will be? I'm in the dugout. Come on, show them the house. Show them the house. Sure, let them pass. Get on Supla. Roll a little. Calmly, don't accelerate too much. There are many runs. This is the 3rd and 4th house on the right. From the beginning or from the end? From the beginning. From you. I'm from you. From the right. Look, Pasha, are we maneuvering this one? Yeah, come on. Come on, come on. This one? Come on, to him. In the window? Handsome.
Oh, handsome.
Is there a blast? Yes, yes, yes. Handsome. Yes, there was a blast. Everything is fine. Dip is
Oh,
working.
my.
Copenhagen for the win. Finally. Finally. They put FPV right in the window of the freaking house. What? Oh, detonation, pit version, and anomaly. Slavo Super.
Man.
All the best. All the best. I'm going to the next one. What should I tell you? There should be equipment. I have 1 shrapnel. What the hell is that? Is that like razor blades on that thing?
Damn, man, that looks vicious.
Dude, they came out with a freaking saw trap to drop on them. Like, that stuff's brutal looking. We will work with shrapnel today, or as they say, now Ural. We left, right? No, we right left. I warn you in advance. Attention to Ural. Come on, calm down. Bleh. Subscribe. Like. Oh, yo, it's like, dude, perfect. They hit it in the hood. So the Ural's out. No subtitles.
Unintelligible.
But the Ural's gone. So that's
Man, I love these videos with the messed up translations. They're so funny.
Man, they are. But that was a little bit of a look into the Terra unit and how they've been operating today. And I hope y'all enjoyed taking a good look at how the drone operations perform in real life and in actual practice, because it is a pretty ad hoc and kind of impromptu thing, but they are very successful at it, and huge credit to them because they were able to take out a pretty good amount of Russian forces and vehicles in that footage. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also saw a Russian BMP-2 explode, and this is the footage that I was thinking of earlier up in the northeastern area. Y'all will love this one. There goes the BMP. Road trip, going on the road trip. We got all shape, or whatever the song is. But anyways, they're driving around. You know, like it seriously is an actual road trip for this thing. It's going the distance. And in a second, you see, whoa,
secondary, nice.
Oh, no, the collateral. And we can see at the bottom of the screen, they said Pokerano. That's the last word. I don't know what the first one was, but great to see that they were able to get that BMP2, and it was due to a little bit of crew stupidity and luck. Moving on from that into the next clip in Bachman, we also saw the 77th Brigade dropping some nades, and they were some pretty good ones. We can see the nail, and they're about to hit the nail right on the head. Literally. Check it out. Check it out. And there goes the bomblet. There are the Russians, and right on the nail on the head.
Taxi.
Taxi, but medic, bled. Do you know how to say medic in Russian, Matthew?
How do you say it?
Medic. It literally is just medic. It's the same.
Oh,
like they
I thought about to make a joke or something, like just say, just die or something like that. If you call a medic, you're in trouble if you have to call a Russian medic.
Dude, Russian healthcare is free because this is what Russian healthcare is. Dad, damn it! Why is he dead
we're gonna
already?
solve your illness, Blyat. Give me the knife.
Give me the scalpel. I'm going to live, right? No. No.
One incision right on the neck, oh, Blyat. Right there, that'll fix him.
But anyways, moving on from our little jokes there, and on into the area of Mykolaiv Druha, we also saw a Russian convoy get destroyed in this area today. Check it out.
The estimate. Oh.
Hey.
Wild West.
And we can see them moving up nice and good. We can see Andreevka over there in the distance, so they're fairly close to Andreevka at the moment. And they're rolling along. We can see a guy back here. He's a little too creative. He's going to die. You see, this guy right here. This guy is the guy who's the first to die in the horror movie, you see, because everyone else is following a column. And that means that if one of if the point man runs over a mine, the rest of them aren't going to be running their own path and possibly running into their own mine. This guy is running a big risk here. I mean, so we can see something smoking near the... Oh, and the lead guy already hit a mine, so that whole part of the column has stopped. This guy down here, he's still bravely going forward and setting his own path, the Trailblazer. And it looks like the Trailblazer just also ran into a mine. Wasn't that what I was just talking about? You know, if he had just followed the column, yeah, he would be stuck in the column right now, but he still would be alive at this moment. Nah, he had to go out on his own, and he had to go hit his own mine because he had to be special. He had to stand out from the crowd. So now him and his crew, they're screwed over in the middle of a minefield as Ukrainian artillery is raining down on them. It's juice. It's just straight juice. And now we can see a good amount of them roasting. A lot of them were destroyed here. And this is just some of the Russian units that were destroyed in Bakhmut today. There was an equal number of them that ended up being destroyed down in the area around Velika Novosilka. And they are burning good. Very good. This is about a half company. Maybe even getting closer to a whole company destroyed in this area. But this isn't even the best part for today. This is just a warm-up to the main entree. And also remember that these will be included in the casualty report tomorrow. The vehicles that were lost today are included in the casualty report of tomorrow, not today. But we can see them continuing to burn, and that's quite a significant amount of losses for the Russians again. And so, that's the end of the clip, but absolutely wonderful to see that those Russian forces were destroyed. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians started to fight over rifles that the Russians had left behind, like this PKM. They call it a Pokemon, according to the caption. I'm going to have to listen to the clip again to see if I think it is what that is saying. They found a helmet. It was shot clean through. Once again, that fine Russian quality standing up. You know, these helmets, according to the Russians, they're supposed to be able to stop most pistol rounds and even some smaller caliber rifle rounds. But in real life, we see that they never stop anything. I've never even seen them really even stop a pistol round. It appears that they're all made out of Wish.com airsoft plastic and everything goes clean through. That's at level -4. We now see the Ukrainians fighting for the PKM. Look at that. Look at that. They're going for it. They want it. It's a trophy gun.
Give me, please.
He said, "Give me, give me that thing."
Must be a nice gun if they're fighting over it.
PKMs are okay. It's a light machine gun that's somewhat reliable. So that's kind of why they're fighting over it. And it's also a trophy gun too, a lot more rare than an AK. Holy moly! Tristan just threw in another 100.
Damn.
Man, and the bots are seething, man. Dude, I just saw live chat. There's some bots in there that are seething harder than if they were drinking like sriracha. I mean, like, they are really clinching right now. Fiddle Player 7, by the way, just to let you know, he said, "Why not report the truth about Ukrainian losses? A lot of BS here." He just saw the video where he saw like a whole Russian armored unit get wiped out near Andriivka, and he went, "What about the Ukrainians?" It's like, dude, the Russians just got blasted, man. You know.
Wait a minute, you said 250 from Nicholas Condor just come in?
Holy moly!
Damn.
Where are we now? Where are we now? We're at $7.8 thousand. Good.
Almost up to 8,000.
Man, we are
crazy.
going to town. It is still absolutely a slaughter fest for the fundraiser tonight. It's insane, and thank you, Nicholas Condor, for throwing in a 250. And also, thank you for spiting the bots. I want y'all to know this: the more y'all support fundraisers, the more you spite bots. That's just an equal equation right there. The more they see Ukraine getting support from around the world, not just in the fundraiser, but just people continuously supporting them, the angrier y'all make the bots. So if you want more bots to come into our live chat so everyone can get a good laugh out of their idiocy, please make sure to support the fundraiser, because not only are you helping to save Ukrainian lives, which is the priority, we're also getting to get a good laugh at a bunch of idiots that come into the live chat. So make sure to keep supporting that fundraiser.
Every single donation that comes in, the bots start seething so bad they start shaking with like anger, like the Russian Wojak. Like, you know that bobcat that we usually get in like the comment section is shaking like that.
Man, that they really do be shaking. They're shaking so much, Matthew, that they actually show up on the Richter scale, like when you're close enough to them. But with that,
they show up on the bullcrap scale too, to put it lightly.
And I have to agree.
Bullshite.
Whoa, hey, wow. But moving on into the Donetsk area and behind the lines, we had a really cool picture today, Matthew, because speaking of funny stuff, there's also some really cool stuff. And this was one of the coolest pictures I have seen. Check it out. I'm not even going to say what it is, but look at that picture.
That looks like some air defense on the ground and a plane flying over. Whose plane is that?
Actually, that's a HIMARS.
What?
Yeah, that's not air defense. That's a HIMARS setting up the
Hell,
fire.
man, you set me up.
And a Ukrainian Su-24 flying over, returning from a sortie. HIMARS. Copyright.
Dang, man, what's bringing the bots out so bad? Like, they're coming in like very strong right now. Like,
Man.
I've had like 10 of them in the last minute.
Snake videos, Charlie. Ору, Россия, Россия, народная. You know, it's like, hey, if you love Russia so much, why don't you volunteer, suka? You know, checkmate. Well, wait, hang on. Let me use some words that we saw the Terra unit using. Checkmate, bitch. But moving on from that and into the Donetsk area, we can also see that some Russian soldiers, oh, man, I'm telling you, they get no respect around here. And they were really saying that. Like, it's not even a joke. They were literally saying that. They're saying that when they go back to Russia, they get absolutely no respect. So, here's the clip. When I came to Moscow, everyone says that after the war, after the TCR, all the things, all the days. But the first time you were a little surprised that there are too many traffic jams. Yes, traffic jams. Nothing is noisy. You lie down to sleep and lie down. And what do you drink? Yes, you just wait. But when I was in Moscow, I was the first to do what I wanted. I bought all sorts of unnecessary things there. Yes, for the guys at Monitor. I was in Novosibirsk, and it was the first time I was out of breath. Because there, a club like ours is not treated with respect. Not like in Moscow, which is very sad. Oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I go to Novosibirsk. What do they say? They say, get out of my bar, you bum. Oh man, I'm telling you. And if you go by subway, people immediately disperse, kill themselves or something else. Damn, dude, there's people on the subway.
Subway must be bad.
Dude, there are people on the Russian subway that see a Russian soldier come on and they go, I will commit seppuku, блядь. I'm not even kidding. Or how we, like, all the Muscovites are like that. Why couldn't you just get rid of it? You're going to break up different provinces. From this hostility? Yes, from this hostility. So you noticed it on your own experience? Of course, of course. Were you driving a subway? No, that's not my job. I'm a soldier. Yes, people are looking at you and like, bleh. Again, I'm not a volunteer here. I got a piece of paper. I went to get a piece of paper. I didn't run away like you did. I didn't hide, didn't sit down. I went, yes, it's a law, obediently, a citizen. I come to vacation, I still have a thump, like, oh, how not good there. Oh, man,
what the hell is he even saying? I can't even understand what he was going with that.
Crocodile does strange things to one's speech patterns, but nevertheless, we can tell throughout that whole thing what he's trying to get at is, oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. And so we're now going to be moving on from the Donetsk area and those soldiers that are complaining about how they're being treated in Russians, like boo-hoo. And so we're now going to be moving on down to Volodar, where we saw the Russians once again trying to uproot the Ukrainian defenders from the town. But it doesn't even matter anymore because the front lines have moved about 2 miles past the town. It's not on the town anymore. But here's the clip. We can see the Russians conducting a mass artillery barrage, trying to injure or kill some of the Ukrainian defenders there, to really no avail. With that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on into our next one, where we also saw a Russian army being hit just a couple of miles away. Oh, that's scary. That was copyrighted to hell. So now we can see the FPV drones hitting their targets, and very efficiently, very effectively. And we can now see the next drone coming into the next tank and hitting it. This one has already been abandoned, but nevertheless, they were going to knock this thing out permanently. And here comes the next one. And like Matthew just said, we are only $200 away from $8,000 on tonight's fundraiser. Can we do it?
Hey, I did the math for you.
Maths. It's kind of hard.
Quick maths.
Quick maths.
Goes
I caught you in West Gloucestershire. I get you the Moustershire. But anyways, we can see the drones hitting the BMGs and knocking them on out. I see you in Berwick Pontoon, and I give you the old Mousetool. But anyways, you can see them continuing.
Man, a Mousetool, that's something.
Dude, someone needs to get a Glock and have that engraved on the side. It says Mousetool. Anyways, we see them still hitting the Russian APCs, but that's the only clip. And of course, beautiful to see that the Ukrainians are continuing to wipe out a large amount of Russian armor in the area. Now, it's time for us to move on into the main attraction of the night, the Russian relief column that was destroyed completely before it even made it to Staromylnivka. Russian forces in this area, like I was saying at the very beginning of the stream, are on death's doorstep. The units have been heavily attrited. They're not an effective defensive force anymore. And when we look at the frontline situation over the past 24 hours, we can clearly tell this line is starting to have a lot of issues as the Ukrainians are starting to move even further westwards around Zaitva-Bazhania, not even going over the highway. They're going to move through the fields as well, and it doesn't really appear like the Russians are able to stop them. Because of this, a Russian commander has called up a relief column to bring more armor and more infantry into this area of the front to try and hold it. It's one of the few reserves that they have left. Strategic reserves on anything above a company level appears to have disappeared at this point. So this is about the largest relief column that this area of the line could hope for. And they were destroyed outright. We got some pictures of it. So here are the pictures. But a beautiful sight. A beautiful televisional feast. But what's very important about this one is that some of y'all are, some of the skeptics who are too intelligent for their own good will be saying, hi, this looks a lot like what happened in Bakhmut. No, it's not what happened in Bakhmut, and I'll show you why. Let me show you the two clips, well, the video and the clip side by side, and y'all see. All right, so we hear the Wild West music again. And so this column was destroyed along a tree line here. So the vehicles were actually along the length of the tree line. When we go back and look at this picture, these vehicles are nowhere near a tree line. These are out in the middle of a field trying to make their way towards Staromylnivka. And so let me go to Google Maps, and I'll try and show y'all like the broad area of where I think this was. I wasn't able to locate this as well as I hoped, but they're probably somewhere out in this area about right here. That's what we're kind of thinking right now. Probably in this field, actually, somewhere in this little strip. That's what I was kind of assuming when I tried to find out where this was earlier, but I wasn't able to geolocate this well enough. Regardless, this is about a company-sized unit that was destroyed. So let's get in on the zoomed-up picture. We can see a BMP-2, a BMP-1, a T-80, another T-80, another BMP of an unknown kind, another T-80. This one actually had a mine-clearing attachment, another BMP, and another tank. So there were about 3 tanks and about 4 to 5, well, actually 4 tanks and about 4 APCs that were in this relief column that were moving to Staromylnivka today to try and reinforce and hold that line as the Ukrainians are advancing. That relief column will never see the light of day. This thing was destroyed before it even made it to the front lines, and it's starting to show how bad off Russian defenses are in this area. They couldn't even screen this force well enough where they could even get to where they were supposed to be going. They were completely destroyed outright. And so, wonderful to see, and this also means that the Russians have no relief at this point. No relief at all. There will be no reinforcements most likely beyond this point, and if there is another attempt, it will most likely incur heavy casualties and no real change to the strategic situation or the tactical situation on the battlefield for Russian forces. And so let's move back down to the area, because that wasn't the only bit of news that we got here from today. We also saw an FPV drone hitting the Russians over to the western side in the fields in that area as the Ukrainians continue to push around over there. Here it comes. Oh, right on the ankles. And we can see a little sumo man. He popped up and kicked him. And poof. Very nice. Overcap. Dude, when someone says something that is too fake, overcap. It's like over G.
Jeez, man.
And there goes the drone. Right into the Russian outpost, right there. And here comes.
For sure, the Ukrainians weren't capping on that one.
Man, they ain't capping. But you know what the Russians are going to be capping on? Oh, there was only minimal damage, Blid. Oh, dang, man, what the hell was this one made of? And when you see the Russians, they're going, oh, Blid. Today almost got me. But the next one.
They came crawling out like you were just a little dazed, that's all. Like, what happened? Did somebody knock on the door? What's that cat doing up there?
Dude, that cat just went, oh, hello, and then it disappeared again. And here comes the next drone. Oh, what the hell are up with these emojis, though? Like, there was some freaking minions. Look. What the hell? Like, I don't
what's that one doing behind that first one, though? Like, you see that look on his face? Man, what's going on?
Terrible things.
That looks kind of sus.
Dude, this is a proctologist dream.
Give me some Harvey Weinstein type vibes going on.
Man, dude, that menu said, "You want this movie role?" And this one said, "Gee, I'd do anything for a movie role." Oh no! Someone said super sus. I would say overcap. So you can see the Russians getting hit in the front line trench. Okay, now the live chat, dude, the live chat's coming out with some pretty good stuff. Oh, and another drone hit. That one was very effective. See them highlighting some stuff on the camera. Overcap, and they're going in for the next target. Ooh, oh, little devil thing.
Devil thing.
Man, I got that little devil in him. That thing. We can see that one go. Oh,
what's he doing? Falling off the cliff?
Dude, that guy was literally just like leaning onto the wall. That was bizarre. But anyways, that was a successful hit. And we see them continue to fire. And now we got something, I'm guessing, from Pokemon down there that disappeared. The emojis are just insane. There's going to be another one here, I bet. Oh, look, there's a little animation. Where's the emoji, though? No emoji, apparently, on this one. Just a tank being destroyed. But no, they did a reverse. Hang on. Oh, no emoji.
Hey, we hit 8,000.
Hey, we hit $8,000.
Let's go.
Let's
Jaga,
go,
jaga.
And
Igor.
to the moon. Oh, man, like
Slava Ukraine. Heroam Slava.
like Gru said in the movie Minions. Tonight we are going to steal the moon. But anyways, very nice to see $8,000 reach. I don't even know how that quote really fit into that. I was trying to make it work, but amazing nevertheless. Moving on into Uruzhina in celebration of that 8,000 raised. Here are some captured Russians. And we're going to dedicate this to the 8,000 mark being reached. And so, here's the clip. Several more Russian prisoners. That's the end of that clip. Nice to see they got more prisoners. Moving on up behind that and into our next clip, we also saw a Ukrainian column moving up into the area to join the fight. Check it out. Wow, that was loud. Slava. But anyways, we can see the BMPs all flying Ukrainian flags as they continue to move up and help out with the front lines. Man, I gotta tell you, man, those bats are out in force tonight. You're having to go around and X, man. X, X, X. But with that...
Man, virtue signaling, it's in style, blood.
Man, people could be around for years, literally, seeing us do the same thing every day and then go, hey, I have a problem with it tonight. It's like, no problem. You like show or not like show. One or the other.
And you be quiet. You go.
You do not like show, you go. But anyways, moving on.
As simple as it is.
Very simple, very simple. Very easy. Look at that. 1, 2. 1 step, 2 step. But with that, moving on from the area of Staromylnivka, absolutely great to see what's going on in that part of the front. We're now going to be moving on to Myrny, where we saw the Ukrainians in United 24, of course, an amazing YouTube channel. I highly suggest you all subscribe if you all have not. They have 555,000 subscribers. They are growing rapidly. And they made a banger of a video today talking about the minefields that the Russians have laid out in this area and explaining everything they can about it. So, without further ado...
I know this guy's got to be sponsored by Nike or something. He wears the same Nike shirt in different variations every single day.
Ad placement, Matthew. Ad placement.
Yeah, he's got to be, man.
But anyways, here's the clip.
One of the most common surgical procedures in the Ukrainian military hospitals on and behind the front lines right now is the amputation. According to the Wall Street Journal, amputations are necessary in about 10% of major injuries. The cutting off of limbs is a drastic measure that doctors only undertake if the wound or damage to a certain body part is so severe that the safest way to save the patient is to remove it. Now, apart from shrapnel, the most common cause of this kind of injury is mines. And this brings us to this week's topic. In 2023, Ukraine became the world's most mined country, with a contaminated area of at least 170,000 square kilometers. Please be aware that this statistic, due to the dynamic situation, is only an estimate. The real number, for one, changes all the time, and probably it is a lot larger, since in most conflicts only a fraction of the actual mined territory is registered. Most mines go unnoticed until someone steps on it, and then sadly it's already too late. What is a mine? Its deceitful nature, the surprise element, that is the underlying idea of a mine. A mine, and this is in very simple terms, as there are many different types, is an explosive weapon whose charge is detonated by a fuse. Mines are laid singly or as minefields in terrain, so landmines, or in water against ships and submarines. There are also limpet mines that are attached to ships or land vehicles and then detonated from a distance. Also, unexploded shells or rockets and missiles can have a similar effect, so that's an additional danger. A mine is essentially a booby trap, usually triggered by pressure, but in some cases also by tripwires, electronic sensors, or remote detonation. When laying mines, it is common to mix different types of mines so that, for example, mine-clearing tanks cannot safely drive into a field of anti-personnel mines, and in turn, human deminers cannot safely defuse anti-tank mines. Why do you lay mines? The main purpose of mines is for defense, or at least containment. Let's take a look at the ongoing counteroffensive in Ukraine. Russia is using every trick in the book to defend its occupied territories. While the main roads are a much too obvious attack route, it's apparent that Ukraine has to try to cross the vast open fields. Russia has in return mined a majority of these fields to stop any advance over the open space. The US Marines Field Manual defines 4 types of minefields. Protective minefields. employed to protect locations, soldiers, equipment, supplies, and facilities from enemy attacks. Tactical minefields, designed to influence an enemy's ability to maneuver and direct it into an area chosen by the defender to maximize his advantages. Nuisance minefields, intended to cause confusion amongst the enemy by disrupting, delaying, weakening, or destroying attacking and reserve forces. Phony minefields, by either camouflaging the location of real minefields, causing the enemy to be fearful of mines or waste time and resources dealing with them. This can be especially valuable if the enemy is already mine sensitive. Regardless of the type and how, laying mines is sadly very effective. Whether in Ukraine or any other country suffering from armed conflict, mines especially pose a long-term threat to civilians, since most will remain hidden even long after the end of the active conflict. The most common anti-personnel mines deployed by Russia are the PFM-1, known otherwise as a butterfly mine. It weighs less than 40 grams and will typically not kill you, but cause nasty injuries. The POM-3 anti-personnel mine, another common Russian crime, does not need to be touched to detonate. It can be scattered by aircraft, rockets, or artillery, using a small parachute to land gently. It's around the size and shape of a can of Coke, and upon landing it inserts a small spike into the earth. When this spike detects some sort of vibration, like footsteps, it launches the main mine into the air, where the 100-gram explosive payload detonates, spraying deadly metal shrapnel. Russia has also deployed various anti-tank mines in Ukraine, for example the PTM-1, whose elongated plastic casings contain more than 1 kilogram of plastic explosive. PTM-1s can be dropped from helicopters or scattered by submunition warheads. If a tank or another heavy vehicle drives over it, the 1.5 kilogram mine explodes, and in most cases, the chain is destroyed. This poses a high threat even to modern Western main battle tanks. The immobilized tanks then become an easy target. Russia has also deployed more modern mines like the PTKM-1R. These spring or jump mines, which resemble a camping stove, are a particularly treacherous weapon because the tank does not have to roll over it for it to explode. It is supposed to be able to detect whether a tank, truck, or car is approaching, based on ground vibrations and acoustic patterns. In case of a tank, an explosive charge is fired, attacking the tank from above at its most vulnerable point. Demining.
That's pretty hot tech.
What the hell? That was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen, dude. It looks like a little, it really does look like a little camping stove, and then it just lobs a bomb up into the sky. It's like, that's a little bizarre.
And it tracks the tank and knows where to hit it? Or is it like just like random?
So it's based off of vibrations in the ground, so it detects what direction the vibrations are coming in, and based off of the intensity, the assumed range, and then it flings the bomb up into the air with a fuse. So like it adjusts the fuse. I'm assuming based off of the complexity of how difficult it sounds to make one of these things, I'm assuming they're probably a little bit more rare, but apparently the Ukrainians have run into them and they're out there somewhere for them to be talking about them.
Well, that's pretty advanced for the Russians, I have to admit.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many of those they really have used at this point, because they sound very expensive.
Ukrainian soldiers are faced with the humongous task of demining at least enough territory to create pathways for them to advance and attack. Often during the counteroffensive, soldiers have to demine manually. Deminers, also called sappers, wade into minefields on foot and then clear a patch. As you can imagine, clearing mines under incoming enemy fire is especially difficult. Also, this method is not very effective if you want to clean areas or pathways large enough for tanks or infantry fighting vehicles. Therefore, both sides resort to so-called mine-clearing tanks for this purpose. These can basically cut a path in the battlefield through which attacking armored vehicles can advance. Tanks can also be fitted with chains that rotate and beat through minefields. Even more sophisticated and effective is the M58 mine-clearing line charge, a rocket-projected mine-clearing system which the USA has already supplied to Ukraine. The basic idea is the same as the Soviet-era UR-77, which is used by both sides in this war. The tracked UR-77, nicknamed Meteorite, dates back to the 1970s and uses the so-called pyrotechnic broaching method. To do this, the UR-77 uses a rocket to fire 2 arm-thick detonating cords from the turret. They touch the ground, and the explosives in the string detonate. The blast wave is designed to detonate mines near the strings, creating a mine-free alley up to 90 meters long and 6 meters wide. However, the older Soviet systems don't work on more modern mines because the small explosives in the cords do not detonate them. So, to be successful, Ukraine will have to rely on more modern systems like the M58. Other options include drones and robots, unmanned aerial or ground-based vehicles that do a job that would otherwise put a human being at risk. Slovakia has provided Ukraine with a similar but smaller system called Bozena 5, which is an unmanned, remote-controlled 12-ton crawler that also rotates heavy metal parts. In any case, the demining of Ukraine's territory will take dozens, if not hundreds of years, endangering many more generations to come. This is the sad and true price of this war, and the more support Ukraine can get, either through modern demining equipment or foreign experts who are willing to participate and help, the better. That's all for this week. Thank you for watching Talking Tactics. Hit like and subscribe, and see you next week.
And with that, that's the end of the clip. But, of course, the best description, or the best video that could be made to describe the kind of challenges that minefields create, and also the large reason why the Ukrainian offensive has been so slow is because these minefields are all over the place and actually span across most areas of the front line in multiple, I guess you say, defensive depths. So there's one field of mines, and then behind that, a little bit further, about another kilometer, is another field of mines, and then behind that, there's even another one. And so it's making it very difficult to advance, but nevertheless, it is something the Ukrainians will have to deal with if they want to continue to push forward. Moving on behind the lines and into Novosilka, we saw that a Kirpi was able to save some Ukrainian lives by resisting a direct hit by a Russian tank. There's the Kirpi. And they're looking around the Kirpi. And the Kirpi stood up really well. It was hit directly by a tank. Keep that in mind. See him looking into the crew compartment. And we see that it's gotten dusty in here. But the crew compartment is intact. That is what's most important about these kinds of MRAPs.
Водитель Кирпи.
Блядь, живой? Это радует. Ой, как жопа, дивіться. Ебуя нахуй. Жуть.
And so with that, that's the end of the clip, but great to see that that Kirpi was able to survive a direct hit from a tank. Moving on from that and on to our next clip, we also saw the Ukrainians destroying a Russian tulpan in the area. Action music! Have you ever wanted to watch a Russian tulpan get blown up by an M982 Excalibur round? Well then you, my friend, are in luck. Introducing the all-new laser-guided, ultra-precision, super high-end M982 Excalibur round. One of the finest artillery rounds in the entirety of the Western world. Watch as it destroys this tulpan outright. Look at the tulpan in its sad, withered-out glory as it gets hit again by yet another M982 Excalibur round. Watch as the crew tries to figure out what happens when it gets hit a third time by another M982 Excalibur round. Watch the crew run in fear as they don't even know what's going on. Fish fear him. I don't know what the other part of that line was, but anyways, we can see the peon now fading into the darkness as the fire continues to burn on the rest of the vehicle, ensuring that the destruction will be complete and whole.
Are you trying to imitate that guy off the alcohol commercial that Dos Equis?
No.
With that music in the background?
No. No, I'm doing Sam Elliott. What the hell, man? What the...
He's the most interesting man in the world.
Man, I was doing Sam Elliott, man. Now you
Well, Sam didn't do that commercial, did he?
No, he did not.
He no, that's that other guy. I don't know his name, though.
But that's the end of that.
Look at that thing. Is that a badger?
It is, dude. That badger.
Man, that badger is swole.
Badger, man. That badger going...
Man, that badger would jack you up.
Man, that badger, man, that's not Stoffel, man. That's Stophalophagus. That thing gonna kill you. But anyways,
that's strong.
Man, that thing be strong. But anyways, moving on from that and into our next clip, we also saw Russian forces moving on up. Check it out. Okay, we're gonna be muting the Chechen era music. And we now see them dismounting from the tank and advancing into a tree line. Well, you now see them fighting in the trenches. Moving up. Firing down the length of the trench. Clearing out more Russians. You now see the guy lobbing a nade, then running back. We can see them firing down the trench some more, and largely their goal in this battle is just to push the Russians out of the trench line. That's the whole goal. And they're doing a good job at it. Look at them go. And they keep on firing. They're firing into a dugout now. We see them lobbing a nade. Nade blows up. People have a bad time on the Russian side. The Ukrainians have a great time. They clear the trench a little bit more, continue to fire, and the video clip ends. But once again, a really good look at what's been going on in that area. And of course, great to see the Ukrainians continuing to put as much pressure as possible onto that part. Moving on from that, we also saw a picture of the Novokakhovka Dam again, showing the amount of damage that was sustained and what it looks like today. That is the Novokakhovka Dam. The damage is so extensive, one can clearly tell that this was explosive charges set by the Russians. Because notice this, the only part of the dam that still stands is the Ukrainian side of the dam. That's along the Ukrainian-controlled part of the river. That's the only part that stands. The part going from the Russian position all the way over there, that's the part that's gone and was blown up that night. You have to pay attention to these things. You have to pay attention. But we can see them looking at the damage. And it's pretty insane to think that that happened months ago at this point. This was something that happened on June 7th. It's now August 20th.
Oh, just yesterday.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's really bizarre. But with that, that's the end of that little clip. And we're now going to be moving on from the Novokakhovka Dam and on up towards Chernihiv. Because we got a picture today showing the damage that was caused to the Chernihiv Drama Theater, and it was very extensive. It was not as bad as the destruction of the Mariupol Theater, which actually caved in the center. And this building largely appears to have remained somewhat intact, but of course, the damage was very severe and ended up injuring and killing hundreds of people. More so killing around a dozen and then injuring over 100. Still a bit unfortunate, and hopefully the Ukrainians can make the Russians pay dearly for what they did to the people who were around this theater when the attack occurred. Moving on from that, we're now going to be moving into Kyiv to hear Zelensky talk a little bit about aircraft in the future of the Ukrainian military as far as this war is concerned. He had some interesting comments to make, and so, without further ado, here is the one and only speech.
Дорогі українці, українки, сьогодні весь день працюємо в Швеції, зараз завершуємо день в Стокгольмі. Зброя для наших воїнів – це головне. Є результати, і це дуже потрібні результати. Броньована техніка CV-90, класні машини. Саме те, що потрібно на фронті, не лише постачання від партнерів, хоча його прискорюємо, але й виробництво в Україні. Наше виробництво, нове виробництво. Є домовленості зі Швецією про виготовлення CV-90 в нашій державі. Все потужне, що служить нам зараз, ми маємо локалізувати та виробляти. Так і зробимо. Друге, це арчери для наших артилерістів. Вже триває навчання наших хлопців у Швеції. Потужна система, потрібна система. Працюємо, щоб їх було більше в Україні. Третє, сучасна авіація. Дуже стараємося збільшити можливості військової авіації. Це одне із найскладніших завдань, але я впевнений, ми його виконаємо. Зараз маємо проривний результат щодо гріпенів, класних, сучасних шведських бойових літаків. Наші воїни починають вже тестувати їх. І ми крок за кроком, перемовини за перемовинами, ми наближаємось до того, щоб гріпени з'явились у нашому небі. Сьогодні говорив, зокрема, про це із паном прем'єр-міністром Швеції, з представниками шведських парламентських партій. Дякую за розуміння наших потреб. Працюємо над початком етапу із тренуванням наших хлопців на гріпенах. Деталі ми обговоримо. Була сьогодні хороша і змістовна аудієнція у короля Швеції Карлом XVI Густавом та королевою Сільвією. Був у них разом з Оленою. Вдячний за підтримку України і наших людей. Вдячний за розуміння того, через що доводиться проходити українцям зараз. Сьогодні різні лідери, представники держав, міжнародних організацій засудили черговий надзвичайно підлий російський удар по Україні, по нашому Чернігову. Я вдячний кожному і кожній в світі, хто сьогодні висловив співчуття Україні, нашому народу. На жаль, 7 людей загинули в Чернігові від ракети. Серед них дівчинка звали Софія, 6 років. Було мої співчуття рідним. Поранених, травмованих 144, серед них 15 дітей. Ракета вдарила по центру міста. І це в свято Преображення Господнього, православне свято. Рятувальну операцію загалом проводило 140 людей, медики, екстренка, військові, місцева влада, всі допомагали. Дякую кожній, хто рятував життя дітям, дорослим, усім. Особливо відзначу фельдшерів екстренки Людмилу Копиш та В'ячеслава Прогоренка, працівників ДСНС Сергія Костенка, Владислава Соколенка, Юрія Овруцького, Валерія Моргацького, Олексія Марченка, Віктора Довженка, а також поліцейських Андрій Вовк, Андрій Зеляк. Вдячний вам усім. Я впевнений, наші воїни дадуть відповідь Росії на цей теракт. Відчутну відповідь. Слава усім, хто захищає нашу державу і наших людей. Слава Україні!
And
Herom Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky on day 543 of the war, and that is also the beginning of the other half of this stream. And Matthew, what do we have is in terms of the top donors in between the last segment and this one, because we have raised in between that last moment and this one another $3.5 thousand, I believe, for the fundraiser. And so, take it away, Matthew.
And we have a 250 from Nicholas Conder, as well as a 100 from Bill Harper, Trister 1, Bobby Ibarra, and then we have a 50 from Steve Watkins at work, and a 50 from Gladiatus, I believe how it's said. And thank you all once again for the very generous support for the fundraiser tonight. And once again, like the Enforcer said earlier, big thanks to everyone who donated small or large, because it all added up to get us up to $8.2 thousand, which is tremendous.
And I gotta say, it is absolutely incredible. And I got to thank all of y'all so much once again for making this fundraiser as amazing as it is tonight. $8.3 thousand raised to save the lives of people in Ukraine. That is the big #1 thing. And I think it's amazing to know that the Lee Spring Army is going on as strong as it ever has and has continued to help save the lives of people over there. And so thank you to every single one of y'all, both the massive donors that we are able to call out and the smaller donors, there's so many of y'all that we cannot call out. Thank you to each and every one of y'all for supporting the fundraiser tonight. And thank you to all the folks who have been hitting the like button and sharing the stream with friends and family that can support, because y'all too are helping out in a massive way in making sure that these fundraisers are as successful as they are in raising as much as possible to save lives. And so thank you to every single one of y'all so much once again. Y'all ensure that the Lee Spring Army never dies, and y'all also ensure that the Lee Spring Army will live long and prosper. Not to be a Star Trek thing, but it will. And so will that. Oh man, I'm telling you. But anyways, with that,
prosper.
Okay, well, all right. Well, with that, we are on to the polls.
All right, and our first poll says Ukraine has been guaranteed 42 plus F-16s from Denmark and the Netherlands, and is this promising? 74% said yes, it's a 100% certainty now. 19% said I'm skeptical but hopeful. 5% said unsure, and 2% said no, they will end up backing out. And this is the first really solid promise that we've ever gotten for Ukraine to get jets, and for them to back out of that, that would be a far-fetched thing to do. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that these jets are guaranteed to Ukraine, but the question, like I said earlier in the short war summary, is how soon are they actually going to get there? Because that makes a huge difference. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say, American give me
Ukraine's been guaranteed jets. Is it promising?
It's promising. I don't even know where I am. But moving on from that, all the jokes aside, that is very promising to hear. They've been promised 61 jets. That is huge, and it will be making a massive impact on the war effort. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one says, Russia is forcing Western companies to collaborate or have their assets seized, and is this good for Russia? 53% said no, it only hurts Russia's economy. Excuse me. 24% said yes, takeovers are good for Russia. 13% said unsure, and 10% said it seems like it depends. And to me, it seems like this can only be bad for the Russian economy because the West can only run those companies properly, as we saw when the Russians took over McDonald's and turned it into Tasty Period, and that didn't go too well for them. And the quality went downhill, and I'm sure it's probably not hanging on very well. So I don't think it helps them in any way whatsoever. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that it's ensuring that these companies will never return back to Russia even when the war ends. We still have no incentive to at that point. So I would say this is going to be screwing over the Russians long term. So with that, I hope that does address that poll, in my opinion, fairly well. And with that, we are now on into the questions. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
And we actually had one more poll.
What?
It says, should mines be banned in warfare? And if so, is it even realistic to do so? 45% said yes but no. 33% said no and no. 15% said yes and yes. And 6% said unsure. And I would say that it would be great if mines were banned in warfare. But since the weapon is already in use and it's a widely used weapon by every side, I really don't think that's realistic to do so. And even if a treaty or something was put out there to ban it, nobody would probably abide by it. So it's a good thought, but it would never work in practice. But Enforcer, what say you?
Mines have been used for a fairly long time in modern warfare, about 80 to 90 years. And unfortunately, I don't think mines are ever going to be going away. It's kind of a permanent part of most battlefields and most wars. So I would say, we're probably never going to see that disappear. We will, of course, we've seen things like poison gas disappear. Chemical warfare is largely gone from the earth. But things like mine warfare, I don't think we're going to ever see that disappear. And I don't think if a treaty came around, it would ever actually be enforceable. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, by the way, that is the name of the restaurant. I didn't pick that name. So, you know, that's the whole thing, is the name doesn't make any sense. And also, it's kind of odd. But anyways, moving on.
Yes. You sat there and said, man, Barnes & Noble. And everyone went, Barnes & Noble? Ew, pick a better name. It's like, we didn't pick the name. That's just
Man,
the name.
get your minds out the gutter. Come on now.
Man, oh, I didn't know it was like that. Okay, anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
Damn, the Enforcer just had an epiphany, I guess. But anyways, moving on to our live chat questions. We have one from Wandering, who says, do you think Belarus minus Lukashenko would ditch Russia?
Yes, 100%. They've kind of been moving that way for a while now. And you know something funny that y'all may have known about is that there was a guy a lot like Lukashenko that was in charge of Romania in the Cold War, and his name was Ceausescu. Ceausescu and his downfall was truly hilarious. You know, I wish I could pull up the speech for y'all and everything. I would show that to y'all, but I feel like that's something for another time and another video maybe that we can make about Romania. But it was so funny, Matthew, because the guy was up there on a balcony and he was giving a speech, and the crowd was filled with protesters that were posing as pro-Ceausescu guys. And so when he started his speech, they started storming the building. So they started like flooding into the downstairs floors, and the security guys were running up to Ceausescu and saying, they're in the building. And Ceausescu was up there with his hand up saying, calm down, everyone, calm down, while they're like raging into the building. And so it got so bad, and it never died down, that him and his wife got onto a helicopter that landed on the rooftop of the building he was in and flew them off. And then later on, they were ordered by the army while they were still flying through Romania to divert and land somewhere, and then they got summarily executed. So, interesting story from start to finish, and most of it was documented, including their execution as well. You can actually find pictures of that out there. But anyways, moving on from that, I have a feeling that that's probably the way Lukashenko would eventually go, because it's kind of been moving in that direction in Belarus. So I have a feeling that Lukashenko is going to be this century's version of Ceausescu. And if he was overthrown, we're probably going to see Belarus do the exact same 180 reversal that Romania did once Ceausescu died, is that they're probably going to go full-on west. So with that, hope that
Not Romania. Oh, no.
What?
Not Romania.
What do you mean by that? I don't even know what the joke is there.
What, Romania? The joke you've been making all night? Romania?
Oh,
yeah.
What the hell? What? Oh my God, Twitter is a trash pit. Oh my God. Wow. Y'all don't even know.
Unintentional.
It was.
Right.
It was so unintentional. I just recognized that one though, so I had to look at it for a few seconds. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
Oh, yuck.
Oh,
but anyways,
God.
moving on to our next live chat question. We have one from Maple Leaf Spring. And they said, check out the Dutch livery on the F-16 in Dutch orange.
Let me go check out the Dutch F-16. Is that like a double Dutch fudge? Let's see here. Dutch F-16. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Let's see here if I can find the Orang one. Oh, look. It's the F-16 demo team from the Netherlands. That's the Orang one. Dude,
Now that is kind of sick.
Dude, that's like the legendary skin you get when you kill enough people in the F-16. You get this skin. But I like that. That's a really nice looking skin. Well, not skin. Sorry, camouflage or paint pattern. I don't know why I'm calling it skin. That's a weird thing. I don't play War Thunder, y'all. I just play it on the weekends. But let's see here. There are some other cool liveries for the F-16 out there, like the F-16 adversary squads. Those are really cool. So let me go adversary. And let's type that in. And we ought to get some really cool camo jobs. Like this one's supposed to be kind of like a Russian Air Force camo job for the F-16. So that way they can kind of fill the role of a MiG-29 or an Su-27 in war games. But there are a whole bunch of other cool ones as well. Just really cool paint jobs exist in the adversary squads. Let me try and find another one, because there was just so many. This one's one of my favorite. That's a model of an F-16, but that is one of the adversary camo patterns. Really neat stuff, but I really like that Dutch one. That was a really cool one. And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Mr. Drake 333. And he says, any news about how fast the orcs are building trenches further back? And by the way, check the CV90 Molnar. It's awesome.
Let me check the CV90 out first, because that's the one I'm kind of hyped about. Let's go pull it up. Images. Oh my lord. Now that is cool. Wow, that is really neat. You know, y'all are probably wondering, hey, Enforcer, could you show me what you're looking at? No, yeah, I'm just kidding. I'll show it to y'all. So this is the Mjolnir, which is a mortar version of the CV90. So the turret's designed with what appears to be 4 mortar tubes, and it can rapid fire mortar shells. That's whack.
That is whack. That looks weird, like with such a small like firing unit on it like that.
Yeah, you know what it kind of reminds me of is like a modern day version of the Storm Tiger. And let me go pull that up. This thing here. The Storm Tiger.
That's definitely, that's hideous. That's like one of the few designs I've seen from Germany that's hideous.
Man, that thing hideous. Oh, yeah, we haven't even touched on some of the things that never made it to the light of day because they weren't good enough looking for the propaganda narrative for the Nazis. But this thing actually fired a 380 millimeter shell. 380 millimeters. That's the same size as main guns on battleships. And they were firing that crap out of this thing. And also, let me go pull up this one, Matthew, really like, the Carl Gustav. Hang on.
Mark Gagne said the mouse. I actually like the look of the mouse. I thought it looked all right. It's pretty blocky looking, but it's pretty nice.
Let me see. The Carl Garot. This stupid thing. Wait, hang on. Let me go get a better picture. This stupid thing. It actually existed.
Yeah, it looks like a really dumb design.
Yeah, these things actually were used in the war. Somewhat in decent numbers. There was about 15 of them made, and they saw service both against the Allies in the Western Front and also against the Soviets as well. Very stupid system. But you know what? Hang on. I'll actually go get you a video of that one, because there is a video out there that does exist of that thing firing. So let me go get it. The Carl Garot. Firing. And let me go find that video, because it is a treat. Oh boy, isn't this a treat. So here's the video. We're going to include the music from the propaganda reel. They're loading it. And also, a little bit of context here. This is the siege of Sevastopol inside of Crimea. You know, Germans also did it too. And this is them using the Karl Garot against one of the major forts that is on the outskirts of the city of Sevastopol. So they're loading the Karl Garot right here. You can see it's a pretty lengthy process. And there's the Karl Garot. I gotta tell you, this thing just looks stupid from every single angle. And so there's it firing.
Damn, that's got some recoil on that thing.
Yeah, this thing is insane. Look at it. Watch. And then look at this. You can, like, this is on a 1942, 1943 film camera, by the way. So think about that. They can hardly see at great distances. The shell is so freaking big, it actually shows up on the camera.
Man, I'm just can't get over the recoil on that thing. It would literally mow somebody down behind it if they were standing in the rear.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this the whole thing was nuts. And what was even funnier about this thing is that they tried to use it to blow up a bridge during Operation Market Garden. They fired 8 rounds at this bridge, and this bridge was about a mile long. And out of those 8 rounds that they fired, none of them hit the bridge, and they were only 2 miles away. So it was very inaccurate, wholly inaccurate. But it was still an insane piece of equipment, just going through some of the stupid things the Germans made. But yeah, the Germans made a whole bunch of stupid looking stuff. It's just that it never saw the light of day because nobody likes to look at the stupid stuff and then try and sell you on the idea that the Germans were really advanced and really ahead of the game technologically. Because then you look at their stupid creations like that and you go, nah, these guys were hardly just half-assing it and they were high on meth when they designed this stuff. But
is that one of the Wunderwaffe things?
No, this stuff was around in like 1942. So it was like well before like the Wunderwaffe era in 1944 and 1945. This stuff was just like stuff they made because they thought it would be cool to use.
Man, why'd they even call it the Wunderwaffe? That sounds so goofy. Like what's it, like the Disney Imagineering department?
I know. The Imagineers came up with a creative solution. Instead of using a jet engine, we're going to use rocket fuel that can melt your ass if it melts. You know, I don't know how to explain it. It's a rocket. Insert ME-163 right here. One second, let me go get that stupid thing. The rocket glider right here.
Oh, jeez. It looks like a. If you could name this thing anything, you'd probably call it a guppy.
Yeah, you know what I call this thing? A stupid dork.
Stupid.
Stupid. And you know, these things, they actually use these a little bit against American bomber formations, and they ended up doing poorly because these things accelerated so quickly, even going vertically, that the pilots couldn't really even get enough time to fire at the bombers. So they'd usually just shoot up right through the bomber formation, and then by that point the fuel had run out. So then they're gliding back through the bomber formation. They were a sitting target for the bombers, the fighters that were escorting them, and everything else. So a very stupid design, but hey, it's still not as stupid as this one. This one, it has the funniest story behind it that you could imagine. This thing is the HE-162 Salamander. To go through a little bit more of Nazi weaponry. This thing here only exists because they put into a magazine in Germany in 1940, the late 1943 or early 1944, they had a competition. They had 4 different aircraft, Wunderwaffe, that were available for the public. And you could write a letter to an address, and you could vote for which Wunderwaffe you actually wanted to have produced. And this was the stupid design that ended up winning that competition from the magazine, and they ended up making this thing.
That's crazy. I never knew. So you're telling me that they, like, sent out a magazine with, like, potential designs, and the people voted on the military equipment?
Yes, this was the only one that happened for, though.
Oh man,
but
what could go wrong with that?
I know, right?
Knows a lot about military equipment.
I know, right? It was such a stupid premise. And, you know, and think about that. They're doing stupid stuff like that. And in the modern day, people want to go, oh, the Germans were really smart and really technologically advanced for the time. Dude, they literally had a raffle run to figure out which one they were going to be building. And it ended up being this stupid thing. And it didn't even end up working, really. This thing was one of the worst jet fighters that the Germans produced in the war, period. It was terrible from every single aspect. But it was used a little bit, but not well. But anyways, just wanted to share with y'all some of the stories of Germany's flops, because they had more flops than they had successes. Like, for example, the Horten 229 is a huge flop. Let me go show y'all that. Y'all all know about this one, though. I know y'all all
that's the Horten Ho.
Yeah, that Ho, but this thing's a flying wing.
Why'd you have to do that?
Because I had to, but anyways... This thing's the flying wing. It was a fail. This one actually ended up crashing and killing the test pilot. And so then the other prototype was put inside of a barn shed, and then the U.S. found it as they were moving through the area, and then it came back to America. And then all these stupid theories started coming up about this thing, making it sound like it was amazing when this thing really sucked in all practicality. Northrop Grumman, I believe it was. No. I think it was actually Lockheed Martin. That was way ahead of the curve with the flying wings. We had flying wings before the Germans ever had flying wings. We had the freaking YB-35. before the war. Like, this thing actually was around. This thing here, we were thinking about using this in the Second World War. The problem is that it was a little too expensive to produce, so we went with more practical designs like the B-29 Super Fortress at that point. But this thing could have been used in the Second World War. It was around for it.
I think the big difference, though, is this is powered by props and not jets.
Well, yeah,
I think the other one was special because it was supposed to be powered by the jets.
Well, yeah, but then in 1944 they had the YB-35 redesigned, and they came up with the YB-49, which was entirely jet powered. And here's a picture of one of those.
I think we had this debate a long time ago, and we found out that this thing was made after the Horton Ho with the jets.
Well, yeah, with the jets it was made after the Horton Ho, but the original flying wing design with the prop engines was made before the Horton 229 ever even flew. And that one, if it was not for the cost concerns, actually could have been used in the Second World War. Unlike the Horton 229 that crashed and was never used, the YB-35 was an actual steady design. Way more steady than the YB-49 even was with the jet engines.
The fact they had a flying wing back then at all is an astonishment to me, because today it takes a ton of computers to keep the thing stable, like the B-2. And the fact they were able to keep this thing in the air whatsoever was an accomplishment.
It was a huge accomplishment. These things were super cool. And actually, it's what ended up inspiring the B-2 bomber was the YB-49 directly. The B-2 bomber has the exact wingspan, length, and the same dimensions as the YB-49, just with modern technology and also integrating stealth into its design. This thing was stealthy, actually, believe it or not. The YB-49 had a very small radar signature. It showed up as like a Cessna 172 on radar cross-section. So back then, that was considered minutely small. But at that time, nobody cared about stealth as a doctrinal thing for bombers. They cared about speed and altitude. So for those reasons, this thing ended up getting kind of sidelined by the B-47 and the B-52s. But anyways, enough on that rabbit hole. Just talking about Nazi stuff, history and everything, you know, weaponry. But anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. Whatever we were addressing, I don't even know how we got on that rabbit hole. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Joel Gibson, who says, do you really think that they have more 30 operational light bombers? I'm willing to bet they count on importing parts to repair them.
I don't really know if they have a lot of light bombers or the logistical side of that, because usually we don't hear a lot of information on either side about the logistics of keeping their bombers running. And so with that, unfortunately, I have to declare ignorance on that one, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a question from Happy Dragon, who says, do you think that Ukraine has been training in the F-16 for many months now, secretly?
Oh, yeah, they've been training since last year. We knew about the Ukrainian pilots being here in the United States training last year, so some of them have the training right now, and we may see that there will be a couple of surprise F-16s that pop up here within the next 2 months. But, you know, who knows? You never really know on that kind of stuff. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a question from Cody D362, who says, do you think the Ukrainian government is doing enough to deal with corruption within its military? And how much of a difference will F-16s make to their fighting ability? And slow Ukraine.
I think the Ukrainians are trying their best to deal with corruption. When you fire all of the recruitment officers, that says a lot about how they're trying to fight corruption. But you can't fight it completely. You also have to remember that there is corruption in every single military in the world. And right now, we're not trying to make the Ukrainians as little corrupt as the British Army or the U.S. military. We're trying to make them less corrupt than the Russian army. That's really all that matters, because as long as they are more efficient than them, that's all that counts right now. The rest can be focused on after the war. And so right now, they're certainly fulfilling that role in being less corrupt than the Russians, because the Russians are the very bottom of the barrel in that sense. Moving on from that and answering the other part of the question, what was the other part of the question, Matthew?
It was, let's see here, how much of a difference will the F-16s make to their fighting ability?
It'll make a huge difference, especially with 61 of them, because you can't put all 61 of them in the air at the same time. You can probably put about 30% of them in the air at any given moment. That's probably the maximum. So now you're looking at 20 F-16s flying in the skies at all times, conducting all kinds of sorties and missions, and that means that the F-16s, there will be so many of them that they can end up supporting each other in massive frontline raids into Russian air defenses to destroy them, or to destroy Russian ground equipment, or to help Ukrainian ground forces conduct a breakthrough in a specific area. So those F-16s in that bulk of a number are going to be making a massive impact on the front lines. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to AF Kaplan, who says, while we're on the subject of fighter jets, Have we heard anything more regarding F-18s possibly coming from Australia?
Man, we could ask that question every night, and sadly, we have not. That question comes in so much that we don't even really get to see any change in that regard. It was kind of brought up a while ago. It was kind of like an idea, but we didn't really see it go beyond the idea phase yet, at least publicly. So sadly, we have no additional info on that. And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Portstan, who says, question from the chat. Because of the long distance from Ukraine, do you not think that the drone was flown in by partisans close by to take out that bomber?
I have a feeling it did fly all the way from Ukraine because the Ukrainian government made the statement that they conducted the attack, and usually whenever things like that happen, they actually step back a little bit if it was partisan, and they say, well, we don't know who did it, to sound all cool and mystical and everything. So I think that they actually did end up attacking that airfield with a long-range drone. And they did a damn good job at it, too. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a question from Marcia Tucker, who says, does Ukraine have anything that can reach the ships launching missiles or bombers in the Caspian Sea?
The Caspian Sea. Sadly, I don't think they would have anything that could reach into the Caspian Sea at the moment. I think that would be a little too far away. So let's go to where we would kind of suspect that a drone would be launched. Yeah, at the moment, that's about 600 miles away at the minimum, just to reach the coastline. So I think at the moment that would be a little too far to reach. So sadly, the Ukrainians wouldn't be able to destroy any of those missile-launching boats in the Caspian Sea. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a question from DF, who says, a week or so ago, there was a train full of T-80s going somewhere, and do we know where they ended up?
They most likely ended up in Ukraine. I believe those were in Yekaterinburg and heading westwards. So they may have ended up in Ukraine, or they may have ended up at the training grounds near Kazan. One or the other. But we sadly don't really know for certain because that kind of stuff usually gets pretty hazy or pretty foggy as far as information goes the closer they get to Ukraine. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And we've got a question from Ricardo, who says, with 61 F-16s, how many pilots does Ukraine have, and are they going to have enough for the aircraft?
They probably aren't going to have enough because they currently have around 100 operational fighter aircraft, according to the publicly stated Wikipedia numbers, and that number is going to start growing massively when another 61 F-16s get introduced. Someone just tried to say earlier that it was only 42. That's 42 from the Dutch, and I believe there's another 16 coming from the Danes. So in total, it's around 61 aircraft total. They will probably have to train brand new pilots from the ground up at that point to be able to field that many aircraft in the skies. So they don't have enough right now at the moment. They're going to have to certainly continue to train more of them and start a pilot initiative. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one is a question from Notorious GRG, who says, if either one of you were able to end the war, how would you do it in a Cliff Note version, including dealing with and handling punishment of Russia and their allies? And I'll say for me real quick before the enforcer answers that one, that sadly diplomacy is no longer really an option. Russia has made it very clear it's not interested in that. And also Ukraine is unwilling to give up territory, and understandably so, it's theirs, and why should they give it up? So in this instance, the only way to solve this, in my opinion, is to literally fight to the death. And it's important the West keeps supplying Ukraine with all the weapons it needs to defeat Russia, because if Russia does win in Ukraine by some stretch of the imagination, they aren't going to stop there. They're going to move on to other countries because they just basically get affirmation. They can get away with it. And of course, that's the way a bully operates. If nobody stops them, they'll keep doing it and they'll go even further the next time. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that if I was to go about trying to end this war, what I would do is try to have a breakthrough in one specific area. I would focus greatly on splitting the Russian lines at Melitopol. That would be my primary focus, because once that happens, I think that the Russians are going to be in such a bad position, the war will be untenable at that point. If they continue on beyond that, I would say just start cutting up the area, cut up the Crimean Peninsula and Kherson into two separate pieces, just skirt from Melitopol down the highway towards Chanhar, and cut off all the Russian forces up here from really any meaningful supply except for through Armyansk. Probably would try and connect the forces of Kazachi Lahri and Oleski to move down the E97 highway and be within HIMARS distance of this highway here. I believe this is the Unfortunately, it doesn't name the highway here. This highway, nevertheless, we'll call it this highway here. That's a good way to name it. I would have HIMARS range head on this highway and just start slamming the roads outside of Chapelnivka where there may be Russian logistics bases and just blow those up outright. So that way the Russians are getting no supplies up here. Could probably force this entire Russian army group that would be in this area to either surrender or to retreat at that point, which means that Kherson is now done with. And then you would focus on Crimea, which is a whole other issue. Just destroy the Kerch Bridge and ensure that any kind of Russian arms transport or any kind of Russian transports for that matter are being hit in this area so that way nothing can cross. These forces will eventually starve inside of Crimea. Or you could try and cross, but that's going to be very deadly, and I'd rather avoid that completely. The Donbass.
Hey, man, that was the whole war plan. That wasn't the cliff notes. Jeez.
Well, I mean, and there's still some left. I mean, there's still a little left. Moving on into the Donbass, I would just honestly leave that alone. You don't really have to fight over the Donbass. If you win in Crimea, you'll probably get the Donbass back by default. So you don't even really have to worry about fighting over that area. You can just leave that alone for the most part. But at the end of it all, the Russians would have to come to the peace table if they start to lose Crimea. And we would have to come up with the idea of whether the Russian Black Sea Fleet would stay in Sevastopol or not. The Ukrainians would probably consider letting them stay there a little bit, because while the war wording is strong right now, that would probably be something where the Russians go, if you allow us to lease the port facilities, we will give you back the Donbass with no problem. And then the Ukrainians would probably go, that's not that bad of a deal. But then that may be a huge issue for them joining NATO. So for American interests, I would have the Russian Black Sea Fleet kicked out of Crimea. No questions. Like, no exceptions, nothing. They have to go. And then holding Russians accountable in this kind of a war situation with an unfolding in this direction, there probably wouldn't be a way to hold that many Russians accountable unless if they were already in Ukrainian captivity. If they were in captivity, I would make it an agreement in the peace treaty that any Russian prisoners of war that are found to be war criminals could be tried in Ukraine, but you would probably also have to add in a stipulation that there would be no death penalty. The death penalty is also illegal inside of Ukraine anyways, so that's kind of assured. Regardless, I think that's the way the war would largely end. And I see some people are a little jumpy at the gun now. When I said, the Russians would probably want to lease the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea. I'm just going over the realistic expectations, y'all. You don't have to get violent just because I'm throwing out what the Russians would probably want. It's better to look at things realistically and actually know what they would probably ask for, instead of just going into it thinking that the Russians are going to be like some evil character in a movie where they just give up and run tail tucked and just don't do anything. They're probably going to try and get something out of it, especially if the Putin government still is standing at the end of this war somehow. So just putting that out there, that's not what I'm saying the Ukrainians should do. I'm just saying what the Ukrainians will probably be going up against at the negotiating table, but that's how I would end the war. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have 3 live chat questions left. And this one goes to Rictarius, who says, do you think the USA could really put a flag or a Ukrainian flag on the moon without the world getting butthurt?
We probably could. I mean, hell, we're America. We could do whatever we want. So if we want to put an Ukrainian flag up there, don't really think anyone could protest against it anyways. If they wanted to protest against it, what are they going to do? Build your own rocket and go up there and knock it down or something if you want to. Beyond that, it's going to keep on flying over the moon. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Lord Alathorn, who says, do you think that Ukraine will split the line on land between Crimea and Russia by next spring, or do you think it'll take longer?
I think they probably will make it to that point by next spring. We were hoping they would make it to it by this winter, but I'm honestly not seeing that at this moment. So they may make it there by next spring. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Menard, who says, considering that the Russians have lost close to 500,000 pieces of equipment so far, how much longer can Russia go on?
Russia can probably go on for, economically, probably about another half year. Militarily, probably another year, I would assume. The Russian army is doing terribly, but usually armies can do abysmally, but still end up surviving for a little bit. So I have a feeling that averaging those out, the Russians can probably practically survive for another 8 months before the economy gives or the Russian army gives. It's going to be one or the other that gives first, and then that's going to pretty much end the other one automatically. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. While Axel K, coming in strong at the very end of the stream, throws in a 50, getting the fundraiser up to $8,580 or $8,580. And with that, it is the end of tonight's stream. I thank every single one of y'all so much once again for watching tonight's stream. It's been absolutely incredible to know that we've been able to cover the news for each and every one of y'all. And at the peak tonight, there were 7.5 thousand of y'all watching. We are entirely honored to know that so many of y'all were here with us tonight as we continued on our mission of helping to save as many Ukrainian lives as possible. And I thank every single one of y'all for also being a big part of that goal tonight and helping it to be successful and helping to fundraise enough where lives could be saved. I thank you all so much once again. If y'all did enjoy and were watching for the first time, please make sure to like and comment the stream, as that helps it out massively in reaching more people. And also make sure to subscribe. While YouTube doesn't really care about subscribers anymore in promoting channels, it makes us feel very happy to know that people enjoyed this channel enough that they will want to hear more from us. Also make sure to hit the little bell button as well, because then you get notified when we run these things. We run these streams 6 days a week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time every single night except for Monday, and we also usually run a midday war summary as well. And so if you enjoyed this stream but you wanted it in a bit of a smaller form, and when I mean a bit, I mean it's 10 to 15 minutes long, which is way shorter, you have the midday summaries to look forward to. And so with that, good night, good luck, stay safe, take care, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Least Spring Army. The Least Spring Army never dies.
All right, and good night, folks. Thank you all for another successful fundraiser, and we'll see you on Tuesday night. Slava Ukraine!
Yes. The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Пану